are recording. I'll go ahead and call the Board of Supervisors meeting into order on Wednesday, January 27th, 2021 at 1 p.m. for budget meetings. And I will turn it over to Stella Rendy, our budget coordinator, director.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. Today, this afternoon, we're going to continue on with departmental presentations. So we have a pretty full schedule today. We'll start with secondary roads and then here emergency management, zoning, veterans assistance, the treasurer, and the recorder. So we won't delay. I'll go ahead and get started and turn it over to Anthony Bargett, our county engineer.
Okay, thank you, Stella. Okay, good afternoon. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and start by sharing my screen here.
Okay.
Let's see. I guess I'm going to start off with you should have in your packets this budget breakdown by line item of what we have in our budget. This is not the presentation, but as I go through the presentation, you can refer back to this for all the different service areas that we have expenditures on, or also our revenue areas.
Thank you. I did see that in the packet.
Okay, so I'm going to get into the other one here. Okay, hopefully you're seeing the Dubuque County Secondary Roads presentation here.
We see it.
Great. Okay, so this would be our FY22 and amended FY21 budget presentation. Please stop me anywhere along the way to ask questions. I'll move along here, but just ask me whatever comes up. To start off with, we're going to look at fiscal year 21 reestimate for revenue. Just as a kind of a summary or a quick summary, the three largest areas of our revenue out of the pie there is road use tax, local option sales tax, and property tax. They almost make up a third of the pie each, and the rest is filled in with just miscellaneous receipts or time 21 fund receipts. Sometimes we get swap funding receipts from a bridge replacement or something like that. But in general, we usually see, or we're supported by our road use tax, local option sales tax, and property tax. So for fiscal year 21, we are actually amending up our revenue, which is a good thing. A lot of that is due in part to the swap reimbursement funding that we're receiving for the John Deere Build Grant design cost. Right now we have the expenditures taking place for Foth Infrastructure, who was hired to do the design work on John Deere Build Grant. In return, we're also receiving 100% reimbursement for those expenditures. So the majority of the revenue increase for this fiscal year 21 would be right at $521,000 for increased revenue. Now, if you take that out, if you take that $521,000 out, we are actually seeing a net increase of around $370,000. It has been factored in that our local option sales tax has increased over this last year, or the forecast for it. Basically, we're looking at an increase in local option sales tax of about $370,000 in this fiscal year, which is kind of an interesting dynamic with the COVID year we've had.
Amazon.
Yeah, that is probably true. Probably lots of building permits too. Lots of people just sitting around bored and figuring out, hey, let's do this addition or whatever. Okay, so then on to fiscal year 22 revenue. Very similar pie divisions there. Road use tax, local option sales tax, and property tax are the majority of our revenue receipts. We are also anticipating to receive around $550,000 in swap revenue for the next phase, or round 2 of the John Deere Build Grant consultant engineering cost. We received right around $1.5 million from DMATs to go towards the design cost and construction engineering cost for the John Deere Build Grant. So the second phase will be here in a couple of months. We'll be putting out an RFP for construction engineering management, and we're anticipating around $550,000 for that cost. So in return, we would also see the same in reimbursement. And then we are also anticipating seeing an increase in property tax of around $136,000, an increase in the local option sales tax of about $219,000, and road use tax is anticipated to grow about $55,000. So overall, if you're to take out the revenue for the bill grant swap money, we're looking to grow fiscal year 2022 by about $437,589.
Anthony, can you talk a little more about the road use tax and where that comes from?
Sure. Yes. It's a pretty lengthy formula that the state devises, but basically they look at miles of roads and population for each county, and they kind of come up with this, various factors and plug that information in, and then divide up the road use tax receipts that come in amongst the counties and cities according to that formula.
Okay, thank you.
I very much simplify that. I think it's a much more complicated formula beyond that, but in general, it's population and miles of roads. Okay, and then I guess going on to budget expenses. We are looking to be fairly stable for our reestimate budget expense and our FY22 budget expense as well. So for fiscal year 21 budget expense, just kind of give you an idea, we're looking at increasing the overall budget by $427,539. Now, if you take out the build grant expense for full infrastructure, we're actually looking at a net decrease of about $94,000. So we're fairly stable on our budget for this year and even into next year. You can see with the pie breakdown, the majority of our cost comes from roadway construction. Then the next big piece would be roads at 16%. That's where you have gravel for gravel roads, maintaining those roads, asphalt paving with our own maintenance crews, just in general, taking care of the roads themselves. And then the next big piece would be ice and snow control. That totally depends on what your year is like. So far, we're on an average trend, I'd say, maybe even a little bit better than average for expense. So right now we're looking pretty healthy for snow and ice control, and then we have the other divisions there for the budget. FY22 budget expenses, very similar. Roadway construction is our largest piece of the pie there, and then it goes on to roads, and then snow and ice control, and then all of our other areas of the budget. Supervisor Pottop, if you'd like, I can go through each one of these areas to kind of better explain that. If you would like, I could take a little more time on that.
The road construction at 38%, that's like if you have some other company come in and do a road.
That's
right?
correct. It's basically all of our contracted construction. So anytime
the blue is what you do yourself.
Yes. Yeah. If like Chad and his crew, they're out doing a little paving project somewhere, that would come out of the roads budget.
Okay. All right.
So overall expenses for fiscal year 22, we're increasing about $217,931 compared to FY 21 pre-amendment. But again, if you take out the build grant expense for construction engineering part 2, we're actually looking at a net decrease on our budget of $332,069. So fairly stable, if not saving a little bit of money in our overall expenses. Okay, and then I'm going to go through kind of a bar chart here of each of our service areas. Starting off with administration. This would be primarily, like salaries for myself and the office managers, office expenses like machines and fixtures, paper, kind of the primary driver of the amended cost for fiscal year 21 and also the FY22 expense increase would be that we're looking at, or we actually had a scanning project where we did a lot of scanning of our files within our office. That was an increase in that cost, so we had to amend our current fiscal year. And then also an increase for the cost allocation for professional services and tort liability. Here's kind of a summary of expense here. For FY21, like I said, scanning old projects, increased expense for cost allocation for professional service. And then FY22, we actually reduced the scanning project amount because we're complete with that project. Engineering, that would be the area where we mainly pay out salaries for our engineering staff for either inspection time, design time. Also expenditures for soil boring costs when we have to go out and get information for a bridge replacement. We'd also have, if we have to hire a consultant to come in and do some load rating on bridges or any other kind of expenditure for that, that would come out of that service area. The main reason for increasing FY21 and FY22, again, would be the build grant expenditure for consultants. So that's the primary driver for the increase there. Otherwise, we would have been fairly stable. But again, the expense is being offset by 100% revenue as well. So it's a net gain there, net zero gain. Okay, and again, here's the summary of changes to the engineering, build grant fees, a decrease for bridge inspection salaries since we do a lot of that in-house ourselves, increase for build grant expense fees anticipated for FY22, and then again, doing most of our bridge inspections in-house saves us the consultant fee. Okay, the next service area would be bridges and culverts. We have been doing a lot of culvert replacements with our own staff on various projects out there, whether it's a paving project we have coming up or just in general, pavements or culverts are failing on us. So we've seen an uptick in that over the last couple of years. So we're making an amendment to the current fiscal year and then also sticking with that, a new amended amount for FY22 for anticipated costs for replacing culverts. That's probably one of our biggest issues in the county is quite a few culverts, middle culverts that are failing on us that, there was a big window of time where there wasn't much done. And then now we're kind of playing catch up on that. So that's going to be a primary focus of ours in the next, at least the next 5-10 years. Okay, our roads budget, fairly stable, not really making a lot of changes there. Again, that's the area where we do, whether it's gravel replacement on our gravel roads or, grading or placing asphalt on roads with our own crew. Those expenses come out of this particular area of the budget. We did make some decrease in some of our line items just based on cost trends that we've seen that we're able to either save some money or not have to expend so much money in those areas. I think one advantage of replacing so many new pavements and what we've been able to do over the last few years is we have less road maintenance, less asphalt patching that we're having to do. So we're seeing a little bit of a savings on that end as well. So it's kind of balancing itself out there. So but fairly stable in the roads area. And I guess one other item, we've been doing quite a bit of ditch cleaning lately, so I'm making a slight increase to that particular line item for FY21. And also we've been doing more erosion control measures on our maintenance projects, so that's an increase in the FY21. But again, there's a decrease on some of our other cost items based on trends. So overall, not really changing a whole lot. Okay, ice and snow control. No change to the existing budget, although it looks like there's quite an increase from FY20 to amended FY21 and FY22. this is based on, what do we actually expend out there for the winter season? The last couple seasons have been pretty good. There was a slight uptick for fiscal year 19 and fiscal year 20, but still pretty good. And some of that was driven by the increased salt usage that we went to. We've gone to more of a 80% salt, 20% sand kind of mixture. We did give the guys the idea that, hey, you can go very rich with the salt if you want. You can go more of 100% rate if you'd like. But they do like to have a little bit of that sand in there to just kind of see what they're putting down, get some traction on the road. But we've seen some pretty good success with, especially the temperatures we've had with the higher concentration of salt. I think that's also having an impact on the amount of time we're having to be out there. We might have to only make 2 rounds of plowing out there versus maybe the old way we had 3 rounds in a day. I think we're going to realize some savings over time just with our labor out there and the truck usage and fuel usage. The increase in salt will, in my opinion, kind of save some of their costs on the back end. So again, we're staying consistent with our budget, although we do anticipate if we hopefully continue this trend through the rest of winter, if we keep having these big winter storms week after week, that might change some things. But I do foresee FY21 actual expenditures to come down a little bit once we're all said and done. Okay, traffic control budget. That's primarily our sign replacement budget. Also, our pavement markings that we apply to the roads typically comes out of that area. It looks like there's a little bit increase, but there's actually no change to the current and next year's budget. You can see that the previous few years have been a little bit lower, and that's based on usually the amount of signs we end up replacing or the contract we receive or get for pavement markings. Sometimes that comes in quite a bit lower than what we estimate, and that's reflected in our actual cost. Okay, road clearing. This is an area of the budget where we actually go out and do brush cutting in the wintertime. It has pretty much an inverse relationship to our snow and ice control budget. So if we have a very difficult winter where we're plowing a lot of snow, we're not doing a whole lot of brush cutting. Usually when the ditches get really filled up with snow, it's just too dangerous to go out and do much in the ditches with our guys. Right now, we're not doing a lot of brush cutting, but back in November and December, we were. The ditches were pretty clean, and we were able to do more brush cutting. You can see fiscal year 20, we had a pretty high year for road clearing. That would have been a pretty decent year for snow and ice control. We didn't expend as much. So if you see a high year in road clearing, it's usually an indication that we have a pretty good winter for snow and ice. The only change we're making to the road clearing area is just a little bit of increase for using more weed control usage. So when we go out and do our brush cutting, we like to apply chemicals to make sure that those trees or shrubs are not coming back. So,
Anthony, can I ask a question here? I know that I think it's Nate Seisler at Conservation. He talked about when he gave his weed report, they're using more chemicals for weed control for the nuisance weeds. Have you talked to him about, this issue for weed control? One of the things that I think was on the best laid plans would be more expenditures in this area by your department, because he's not able to maybe get to it as much. A lot of counties apparently put it in the roads instead of in conservation. Have you addressed that, or do you have any thoughts about that?
So Nate, and maybe more specifically, Brian Preston and myself, we've had some discussions about getting some of our guys together with his department to kind of help train them up with how to use weed control. Even though we do have guys certified to do weed spraying, we do anticipate trying to kind of coordinate with Brian's department to apply our weed control. Now, one of the best areas of to be useful towards weed control would be like our motor grader operators. If they're they're grading the roads, there's a perfect opportunity to also kind of spot spray as they go down the road. Some counties are actually kind of playing around with that. About, you know, some are doing like some installing tanks full of chemicals on their motor grader, and having a kind of a remote sprayer unit in the cab with the driver, and they can do some spot spraying as they go down the road. Yeah, that's something I'd like us to see us go towards. You know, one of these days. It'll take a while to kind of get this all equipped and everything, but for sure, we're covering the miles of roads way more often than what conservation is, and I think we need to be a active partner in this area.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay, new equipment. For new equipment, looking at no change to the current fiscal year. Fiscal year 22, I am looking to make an increase based on the budget from this year, mostly for replacing existing fleet vehicles, looking at maybe a couple dump trucks, possibly a motor grader. A couple items that specialty pieces that we've been looking at for a while now is an asphalt paver and a bucket truck. Specifically, the asphalt paver, we're probably looking at a used unit. That's probably going to run us around somewhere between $100,000 and $150,000. Brand new would be more like $400,000 plus, and we don't need to expend those kind of funds. But we are keeping our eyes open for a used unit. They're hard to find, you know, without getting one with a lot of hours on them, but they are out there. So I would like to increase the budget a little bit to be ready for that expenditure in case that comes. Equipment operations. Actually, fiscal year 20, we're looking at making a decrease for parts for just cost trend that we've seen. I think one thing that the board has done a great job on is keeping up with replacement of equipment and making sure that we're replacing our trucks and motor graders on a normal cycle. With that, we're seeing less parts needed to do a lot of maintenance on our vehicles. And at one time we had high expenditures for parts that were needed within the shop. You know, if we stay on a healthy cycle of replacing our equipment, I think we're going to keep seeing that cost trend come down within the shop. Same thing for gasoline. We've been budgeted pretty high for gasoline for a few years now. I was a little tentative on bringing this cost down a little bit, but I think we're going to be okay as far as pulling that cost down some for the trend we've seen. Even if we see a little bit of a spike in the fuel prices, I think we're still going to be in a healthy state there. FY22 expense. So we're also needing to increase that area for the new radio maintenance fees, and then continue to decrease parts amount from fiscal year 21. Tools, materials, and supplies. Let's see. Okay, yeah, so there's an increase to fiscal year 21 and fiscal year 22, mainly with the amount of culverts that we are replacing. Like I said earlier, we have to have them, our stockpile, make sure it's in good shape. So we're having to continuously use up our stockpile and reorder. So we're increasing our expenditure areas, our expenditure line items within those 2 years, make sure that our stockpile is in a little bit better shape. So that's the primary driver for those expenses. Real estates and buildings. Well, you can see that 1 year is kind of way out of whack with everything else. Just give you a quick explanation on that. That would be fiscal year 18. That was the year where we were expending funds to FEH designed for the West Campus. So that's why that expenditure was so high. Otherwise, looking at pretty stable for fiscal year 21 reestimate and fiscal year 22. We're actually decreasing the cost line item for the Farley shop improvement that we made out there. It came in quite a bit under budget than what we originally anticipated, along with Chris Soder and myself. And then for FY22 expense, also decreasing for lower anticipated expenses. And the grand total expenditures, very stable. FY22 is actually a little bit down from fiscal year 21 reestimate. And like I said, with the build grant design expenses, if those were not in there, you'd see a little bit more of a net decrease in the 2 budget years.
Anthony, another question from me, if I might, before you move off of the buildings, the real estate and buildings. I'm wondering about the landscaping is weak, and you know, the way it looks around, turns out Supervisor Wickham was right, small electronic signage, and you know, blockage of the viewing of that by shrubs and trees. I mean, what's the plan there? We've cut that ribbon some time ago, and I'm just wondering where you think we are.
Well, pretty late fall, we reseeded everything down around the office complex, and sometime in I think it was late October, maybe early November, along with help with Brian Preston's staff, we planted several trees around the office itself. Now, one thing we need to take a look at is doing a little bit better job with the landscaping in front of the office. We left that as just kind of either a grass strip, or quite honestly, there's just weeds kind of took over in there. So we sprayed a lot of those weeds and reshot seed in those areas. We also had to do a little bit more shaping just to make things a little bit more mobile around the office. So we did that very late summer, early fall timeframe. And then we had a stretch there where we just didn't get much rain, and we had the seed in there, and it just didn't take there for a while. So I think in the spring, things will kind of take off as far as seeding and look a little bit better. But one thing I do regret not putting in the West Campus project was a good landscaping line item in there to really make things look nice, have nice plantings out there. We didn't have that in there. So that's something we may want to take a look at in the future.
Well, and we are now, that is a gateway entrance to the entire Dubuque metro area with the Southwest Arterial opening. So just looking at, we don't look like a good neighbor right now. It's just not nice. So I'm not opposed to having us give that a bit of priority, to make sure that we look like we're part of that whole industrial park and the amount of cars that go there. Just a little bit more sprucing, and I still think we need to get some trees trimmed back to have a chance to see our electronic sign. So I know it's minor in your overall budget, but it would be nice to have us show off that campus every way we can.
Yeah, I do agree.
I would support that as well. I think that makes sense.
Okay. So we'll try to come up with.
Anthony, before you
Go ahead.
I was going to jump onto another topic, so I'm comfortable in the landscaping. I'm sure you'll move forward with it.
Sure. Go ahead.
Question before you jump on some other areas. Can you talk a little bit about two things? I don't know if it has to be right now, but basically your full-time employee count, and then the fund balance that we've had in the past related to road construction. So before you're done, I'd be interested in those topics.
Absolutely. Full-time employee count, might have to grab Marianne to get me an accurate number. I think it's around 42, I believe, but I'll have to get that exact number.
Anthony, I can look it up quickly for you. This is
Okay.
Dawn.
This is Stella. I was actually just working on a spreadsheet with employees. So it looks like there's 43.
43.
Okay, roughly, not holding you exactly, give me kind of breakdown of engineering admin versus road crew.
We have 7 people in our engineering department, for basically engineers / technicians in the back, myself, and then the 2 office managers. So that's 7 there, and then the rest pretty much constitute our maintenance staff, or road foreman.
Do we have a union account by any chance? probably closer to that 35, 30 number.
I can check that here. I don't know how many are in the union.
Would that be 38?
This is my union code. Okay. You have 5 employee or 6 employees that are not in the bargaining unit and the rest are in the bargaining unit.
Okay, so about 37 in the bargaining unit.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. And then whenever it's appropriate, I'd like to talk a little bit about the fund balance related to construction opportunities and how that's been potentially drawn down and what it looks like in the future.
Sure. Well, I can tell you what we're anticipating for FY21 in balance is about $9.9 million. Now that includes our local option sales tax fund, our secondary roads fund, and our time 21 fund. When I first got here, we were around $16 million overall fund balance between those areas. We've, probably in about 5-6 years, we've drawn down about $6 million. And then for FY22 in balance, we're anticipating $9,352,604. If you look at the end of the budget breakdown sheet, to that other sheet that I gave you, the very last page shows the imbalances there. I could share that too if you'd like me to pull that up.
I'm jumping to it. It's I went too far.
Anthony, if you have it to pull up, that's helpful.
Yep. Okay, so for the very last sheet of the budget breakdown, anticipating all of our revenue and expenses, you could say they're highlighted in blue for fiscal year 21 ending balance, $9,961,113. And then for fiscal year 22 in balance, it's coming down to $9,352,604. So we're drawing down. I'm trying to safely draw that down, doing it at anywhere from $700 to $1 million a year. And then I'm going to get to a point where I want to try to, maintain a healthy cash flow balance just for, operations. And of course, our property tax and road use tax doesn't all at once. It comes in at different rates. So we have to make sure that I kind of call it riding the roller coaster, especially with the property tax coming in large amounts twice a year and in between not much. So we need to make sure that we kind of ride that roller coaster of expense versus revenue. Right now we're
Thank you. Yeah, it seems like a pretty healthy balance. And, keep in mind, I think, the level of construction activities we've done over your term and close to my term have been highest historically. So I'm not being critical that we aren't getting projects done. But maybe if you could get with Stella and the auditor's office and maybe your other colleagues on what that number actually should be. And then we can try to work towards that related to road construction. Because it doesn't help the taxpayers if it's sitting on that fund balance. It helps them if they can drive across that bridge or their road or make sure the snow is removed.
Absolutely.
I agree with that. Go ahead, Anthony.
Sorry, I'd probably like to see that down more around that $4 to $5 million balance between the local option and secondary roads in time 21. We are, kind of moving at the pace we can move at with, our current staff of being able to push out these projects for design and construction inspection. I do see several projects over the next few years being high ticket dollar items that they're going to cost some money. So that's going to draw down the balance too over the next couple of years.
I don't disagree with that we should probably be looking at kind of a maintenance number. I think you're getting within a few years of knowing that yourself. What do we want to have on a reserve, as you say, to even out the roller coaster of the income? But it would, again, stretching to look at that, 3-5 year, not just roads, but also budgeting. I think that would be a wise thing to do. So I would agree. I think everything you've done has been wonderful, but be nice to get to that spot where we know
Yep.
it's based on what we expect to spend.
Well, I can tell you, like over in Delaware County, I try to carry a carryover balance at the July timeframe of right around $3 million. So I know with the expenditures we receive or incur by August, September timeframe, when expenses are really coming in high and revenue hasn't quite hit yet with the property tax, I'm usually dipping below $1 million cash balance. And if you throw in a major flood project, you're going to expend that very quickly. So I try to ride around $3 million in July, so I can take on any unanticipated costs that would hit us sometime in the summer. I think for Dubuque, like I said, somewhere around that $4 million mark, maybe $5 million mark, with the much greater expenses that we have in this county versus Delaware. I think that I would say about the $4 million mark is where we probably should try to get to kind of ride that wave in case we get a major flood event. So that's what we're going to be working towards. Okay. Okay, so back to the presentation here. So for roadway construction, I'll kind of go through the roadway construction in more detail after this. So this is only of our local roadway construction expenditures. What you're not seeing here is our farm to market projects or our swap projects that we don't get reimbursements on, that just come straight up out of our farm to market account. That would reflect a much higher roadway construction expenditure. For instance, in fiscal year 20, when we had 3 projects that were expended out of the farm market account, the expense would have been much higher, but these are only locally funded projects. So even though it looks like it's more on the low end, we actually usually have projects that are expended in other areas as well. So for FY21 summary of projects, we either resurface or microsurface 25.58 miles of roads. We had 12 structures replaced, and overall expended about $9.7 million towards those projects. Here's kind of a spread of those projects throughout the county. FY22 proposed projects, we're looking at a pretty similar year, about 26.67 miles of roads to be resurfaced. We're going to be looking at replacing 8 bridges along with 5 culvert structures. Also going to be looking at doing some PCC patching on some existing roads, and approximately $9.7 million planned for FY22. This is kind of also a spread on the map here of what we're anticipating for projects this year. So more specifically, those projects, Simon Road Bridge replacement. We are looking at replacing this bridge. It's a 20-ton embargoed bridge. That one is actually a swap funded replacement project. Gun Club Road Bridge. We've already bid that out, and that construction will be starting here in a couple weeks. That's going to be replacing an old 40-ton embargoed bridge. It's actually 20 tons embargoed, but we were able to kind of re-sign it where trucks have to center on the bridge. They can get by with 40 tons. Chesterman Road Bridge replacement, where we will be replacing a 25-ton embargoed bridge. Melville Road Bridge replacement, replacing a 10-ton embargoed bridge. Carper Harbor Road Bridge, getting rid of an old pony truss bridge that's rated at 32 tons embargoed. Stager Road Bridge, replacing a 15-ton embargoed bridge. Hidden Valley Lane Bridge, this is replacing a 10-ton embargoed bridge. Terra Lane Bridge, this is replacing a 32-ton embargoed bridge. McAllister Road Box Culvert, which is actually being paired up with that Terra Lane because it's just around the corner. This is replacing an old deteriorated box culvert. And then we have various culvert replacements on Buncombe Road, also on Stoffel Road. And then for paving projects, we're looking at resurfacing Cedar Ridge Road East from Bud Road over to Hells Mill Road. English Mill Road, that's 3.34 miles of HMA overlay. Cog Springs Road, which is currently under contract, that'll be 1.15 miles of reconstruction and PCC pavement. That's the stretch south of Highway 20 over to North Cascade Road. Then we have Roller Coaster Road. That's a deteriorated PCC or concrete road that will be receiving or resurfacing this year. Then we have Kane and Kemp roads, looking at doing 2.54 miles of HOA overlay. And then we're going to be doing what I kind of call more of a maintenance overlay. We're going to mill 1 inch and place an inch of asphalt. These roads are in that kind of 15 to 20 year lifespan, and pretty good structure, but we really need to do some maintenance on them to try to extend the life of them. Excuse me. This would be on Military Road, North Cascade Road, Horseshoe Road, Cedar Ridge Road West, and Shooter Heights Road. And that is pretty much it for construction projects this year. Any questions for me?
I do not have any. A great presentation, Anthony. Anything from Supervisor Wickham or Potoff?
I don't have anything. Thank you, Anthony.
Nope. Thank you, Anthony. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
Stella, just go ahead. That's great.
Yep.
Thank you.
I was just coming back on. So next up, we would have our emergency management department. So I see Tom Berger is on here. Tom, do you want to go ahead and unmute and start to share your presentation?
Okay. See if I can do this.
Hello, Tom. Good to see you.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
Let's see.
Oh, and I see, hello, Denise. Saw your face
Denise
pop
should
on.
be joining,
Welcome, Denise.
and Mark Murphy should be joining, and I know Chief Steinus is gonna try to join us as well in case there's anything
Great.
for that. Okay, so share screen. Okay, does that look right, or do you have the speaker view? Do I need to swap them?
We have the speaker view right now.
Okay, so if I swap them, how's that?
There you go.
Okay. Well, good afternoon, supervisors. Thank you for the opportunity to be here to present the emergency management portion. It's actually the portion that Denise and I did the last few years is more Denise's and kind of transitioned into me going through this portion of the budget. Department 75, is it? I don't even know the department number. We're into all of all of the different grants and information that we have are in there in this department. So I'm just going to try to touch on the line items to give you a background of how they affect us and what happens with them. So we have our Hazardous Materials Emergency Planning Grant. It's HMEP. Everything has an acronym. This comes from the federal government through the state and allocated to our local emergency planning committee or LEPC committee. Consists of sometimes a planning grant, and most annually what we use it for is our training grant. And what that does is provides us the hazardous materials operations training for our local fire and EMS. We piggyback this with the basic firefighter academy and firefighter 1 class that that we run here at the training center. It's all virtual this year, so it's actually coming out of the Dyersville Fire Department. But state law requires certain, state and federal law requires certain training levels in order to be at a hazardous materials scene. Our 2080 agreement with the Dubuque Fire Department states that our local folks that are on the scene will be trained to the operations level in order to provide support to the hazmat team, which are trained at the 80-hour hazmat tech level. So the LEPC is made up of businesses, government, elected officials, fire industry, and we meet at least twice a year, and mainly to make sure we meet the requirements of the hazardous materials training and exercise and planning. One of the planning grants we do, we just did a hazard analysis and risk assessment. So, and we're currently in the planning line item. We're awarded a planning grant to join with our other counties in this region to do a hazardous or commodity flow study, which gives us all the information of what's traveling on the railroads, up and down the river and the barges, as well as going out and doing some spot checking of placarded vehicles that go through. They did Dodge and Locust to tell us what kind of hazardous materials are traveling through the community, so then we can guide our training and planning and exercises towards that. The fiscally, it's a federal grant, so it's one of them things where you anticipate what you're going to get and what you're going to get each year, but it's always kind of behind the county budgeting process. So what we do is what revenues come in are matched with the expenses in this line item. So that's our hazardous materials grant. EMS services, last year we didn't get anything. They rolled us into the coalition similar to the public health. We did not have a fiscal agent. I think you heard this when Patrice was talking about it Monday in her presentation, but we're back in now. It used to be region 6A and 6B, but now we're just region 6. So we do have money that we're going to be able to utilize through the state, but it comes through the region, and it's around, I believe, $4,700. Mostly what we've used that money for is to reimburse services for the initial EMS training that they take at NICC. So we can provide that training to them for free. Normally, we have a lot more training and expenses than what we received through the state. So there was always a percentage of it we were able to reimburse back to the volunteer fire and EMS services once they had a successful course completion. So, but we are back in with that the region, so we anticipate getting some money this year where we didn't last year. The Dubuque County Multi-Jurisdictional Hazard Mitigation Plan was completed in 2018, and that's valid for 5 years. So probably in late 2022, we will start. Hopefully there'll be grant money available for us through the state in order to complete that. ECA did our plan before this last one, which really helped. This last time, they clustered a bunch of the counties together and did a state plan. And we had a contractor out of Denver that did the plan for us. And this is mainly really important as far as any hazard mitigation projects that local communities would have. You know, like the biggest one obviously is the Bee Ranch in Dubuque, but each individual community submits their plans, and then they get rolled into this. And then if there's federal preparedness dollars available, this makes us eligible to try to get funding for them. So that's valid for another 5 years. So we'll probably start working on that next fiscal year to make sure we have it in place. We do have to review it, and if there's any revisions, we'll make them after a presidential disaster declaration, which we have with the COVID emergency. The Dubuque Fire Department Hazardous Materials Team 2080 agreement. Again, this is the annual contract. This is what provides the readiness for us to have the hazmat team available to us for 24/7 response. We support they'll come into the incident command system of the local volunteer fire and EMS, so they don't really take over, but they support the local incident commander and the sheriff's office as far as stabilizing the scene and working with us. When we do have an incident, I will, through the emergency management, I keep track, or I will get all the cost together for the response, and then we bill the spiller. So we have that in the county code of ordinances that allows us to do that, as well as the state law says that the person responsible for the incident or who is in charge of the hazardous material at the time is the one that just a minute here. I had somebody walk in.
I've got some paper supplies for you guys, whoever.
I'm in the middle of a presentation right now. Thank you. Sorry about that. So the hazmat team, it's based on a formula of their actual expenses. So the Dubuque Fire has the two people that are assigned to the hazmat truck also operate a ladder truck and a ambulance, the third ambulance. So they take the costs for the staffing, divide that by 3 because of the three tasks that they perform on a daily basis. And then again, it's divided by 3, kind of on that 2/3, 1/3 split that we have for a lot of our emergency management formulas with the city and the county on their on the billing. So that's where they come up with that dollar amount. So it's Chief Steinus sends that over to us based on the people that are assigned to that unit. Now, just because we're paying for that, it's important to know that if we have a major, and we've had major hazmat calls in the county, we don't get just 2 people. You know, they will send enough people to mitigate the incident and help us to where we need to, and then they provide a call back to cover the city. So the contract allows for that immediate response. And all of their firefighters are trained to that technician's level. One thing in there too, you'll see in the line item is the hazardous materials vehicle is due for replacement. Chief Steinus has talked about that. The current vehicle is a 1998. It was due to be replaced last year, but due to COVID and it was been delayed. So we did amend and push back the money that was budgeted last year, the $136,000, which is roughly 1/3 of the vehicle replacement. So that is pushed back for this fiscal year. Hopefully the project will be done as the vehicle needs to be replaced as it reached its end of lifetime there. You notice, I don't know if it's tough to see on the PowerPoint there, but when the vehicle was funded back in the late 90s, that also the supervisors did provide 1/3 of the funding, since the city does do the contracting and the hazardous materials expense for the county as well. And that's why the sheriff's logo is on the side of the command center / hazmat unit there. That just shows another incident there south of the city a few years ago, where we had the rollover that lasted for almost 24 hours. The incident there shows a hazmat on the scene. As far as the emergency management agency, I am a line item in this portion of the budget. How we're funded is once we receive the federal, we receive a federal grant, which is capped at the state level, $39,000 through the emergency management performance grant. And then we take the expenses and what we need, and then we divide that up with the 60% cost share for the difference to the city and 40% to the county. That's done basically close to the population base. The city and the county agreed on that years ago, and I also have a 20% balance in the fund for allowing me to get through the expenditures for the first quarter, as well as having that there for the rating as well. So we try to keep that 20% balance in the emergency management. We're not asking for any increase in the allocation from the city or the county this year. Also, due to COVID, we did get a supplemental grant through the EMPG program. So that's a matching 1-to-1 grant. So we received $13,425. That will be spent by this June. So you can see that will be used for basically carrying out any operations of the EOC. And we were able to purchase a trailer that we've been using to go down to Cedar Rapids to get the PPE that's allocated to us from the state, as well as replace both of the computers and the EOC at this point. And we still have some matching grant funds to assist that's left. And by the state code, the county provides all of the financial assistance as far as payroll and claim processing, and our emergency management fund is kept in there, and it doesn't revert back to the city general, city or county general funds at the end of the fiscal year. So we're able to carry that over. That's basically how we're able to do that. That's how we're able to, if we don't expend all the money, then we don't have to ask for additional funds from the city, from locals every year. Again, on the EMA commission, it's established. 29C of the Iowa Code tells all about it. It's a separate municipality. The commission's made up of a member of the Board of Supervisors, which Supervisor Potoff was assigned to. And then the sheriff is on that, as well as the mayor of each of the cities in the county. So with us having the most cities in the county, we have the biggest emergency management commission as well, which sometimes causes us some quorum issues. But and we do have to, when we approve the budget here, like we'll be doing next Wednesday, that I have to have elected officials. So if the mayor can't make it, it has to be one of the council members on that. So our annual budget meeting will be, and we coincide that with the 911 budget meeting, because a lot of the people are the same that attend both of them. I think I talked, this is, I just wanted to highlight, the money that was allocated from the supervisors this past fiscal year, the additional $200,000, and what we spent that on for the COVID-19. The majority of it, you can see 191,000 was spent for the PPE, mainly the masks and gowns. Early on, it was real tough to get the masks, so we did do the KN95 masks and then general masks as well. So the 50,000 public, that were distributed through the Board of Supervisors, that we call the Board of Supervisors face mask came out of those funds as well. We did put a security camera out where we were holding the PPE, as well as had to buy some shelving and storage components for the, storing of the PPE. And also some additional electrical upgrades that we had to put in out. And then before that, when we went to we always had to turn on the lights at the fuse panel, and since we're going to be using it on a daily basis, we put some light switches and did some additional wiring for the EOC with that. COVID-19 response to date, you can see what we have delivered so far. Over 40,000 N95s, as well as over 215,000 of the procedure masks, standard procedure masks, and the other numbers are there. The gloves are the big thing now. So that's over 26,000 boxes of gloves. And then we're also supplying the Test Iowa with test kits at this point now, since they went to the regional nodes. But our PPE is adequate, and we're still able to get it from the node in Cedar Rapids. Just to give you an idea of the presidentially declared disasters, you can see that we've had quite a few disasters in the first 33 years there. We had 8 disasters, and I'm not sure if that's 13, but since 1999, we've had 9 presidentially declared disasters, mainly mostly with the flooding. Another thing in the line item, and thanks to the supervisors again for the Tom Hancock grant, FY20 we were allocated the $125,000. We had 8 services that were awarded projects. We asked them when they put the application in what the total project costs were. You can see that number there, and then they requested $223,000, and we're able to give out $125,000. So you can see kind of the matching, what the funds through the Tom Hancock grant really helped the locals to do. FY21, we have 7 services that are awarded. Again, the total project costs were real close for each year, and then the requests this year were $473,000. So departments are working through the projects at this point. We have requested another $125,000 for next year's. The committee members that will remain the same, myself, Mel White, Courtney Schultz, and Jill Black, have another year on their appointments, I believe. And then the new Dubuque County Fire Association president will be Mark Lucan from New Vienna. The Dubuque County EMS president will be elected tomorrow night from EMS Association. And then Chair Baker Supervisor Baker was on the represented the Board of Supervisors. So next fiscal year, we'll need to have somebody from the board on that committee as well. So that's something you'll have to appoint. But thanks to our past presidents, Jim Benke and Dennis Bradley and Robin Ludovici, all helped with the first couple of years in the allocation of the project. So got a couple pictures of the projects here. Bernard just put a new ambulance in service, which they for this year. And then the Key West Fireboat is a project that was funded last year. That was delayed due to COVID, so that was a carryover to this year. So the funds weren't expended till this year. A couple other one, and the big one obviously was the part that the supervisors played in the New Vienna Fire Station, which is a beautiful facility for them out there, and really helped them with their fundraising efforts. And then that's emergency generator that was placed at the Farley Fire Department. So just a couple projects that you guys can be proud that you're a part of, that are helping local communities. The revolving loan fund has been going since the early 80s with money in total of $490,000. We have EMS loans and fire loans. Our EMS loans are 3-year max with $15,000 payback. And then the fire is a $50,000 loan for fire trucks or fire equipment with a 5-year payback. Currently, we have 10 services that have loans. 2 services have loans in both accounts, so you can have one loan in each account. If you were to get another loan, you have to pay off the other one. So you can only have one in each fund at each time. So right now we have 72,000 available in the fund today, but our last meeting, we kind of earmarked $50,000 loan for Dyersville Fire for their new engine that they'll be receiving sometime in the April-May timeframe. So the money's with the additional that the supervisors put in, it's really helping, and we can turn around the funds and really stretch them. So as far as the 911 board, we're finishing up our switch over to the P25 system. Civils are complete. We're working through punch list items. Our weekly Wednesday calls went to bi-weekly. So we're starting to get everything figured out. They're decommissioning the old system at this time. Some of the projects that we have on the horizon, probably the big one is the phone system upgrade. The phone system at the law center is getting to its end of life. So we do have, Denise has budgeted in our, for this year, I believe 350,000 for the replacement of that. So that's going to eat up quite a bit of our reserves. And then also she has some budgeted next year. The initial estimate was that we could be upwards to $500,000 for the new phone system, but we're seeing some better numbers with that as we fine tune things. So we're also looking at the possibility of being able to use the phone system out here if we had to bring dispatchers out here, or for more of a long term, it probably would have been handy to have it set up that way with COVID, where they have to split dispatch now and use one of the sheriff's meeting rooms in the back. You know, that's a possibility. If we would have had this system and had the connectivity for the phones, we could have put a dispatcher out here. So we're looking into how we can integrate that into the future, as well as hopefully there's possibility there could be some grants in the future, you know, whether there be hazard mitigation grants. It's something we could add to look for some federal assistance with that as well. The new paging system is working. That there's some issues as far as not having voice. Not all of the volunteers have radios to be able to hear any updates from dispatch. And it's kind of a cumbersome process for the dispatchers to retype some information, send it out to the pagers. There's some other backup situations, and the I Am Responding is a company that provides some services mainly to volunteer fire departments. And as far as tracking your volunteers, if a call goes out, you can respond that you're available if you're responding to the scene, if you're responding to the fire station. So dispatch would be able to look at a monitor if we find the space for them to see that the page went out and yeah, there's people responding. So as well as we're hoping some of the scene safety issues we're running into now with the pagers not having voice, we can address through that system. Departments are going to sign up for that. We're going to do a 2 or 3 month trial process, and then we'll see if it's going to work for us. So they're going to give us a demo period, I guess. So then the radio replacement, you know, as we started going to the P25 system, we started this back in 2010 when we started doing our radios. The last batch of radios were the fire mobiles that were able to be phase 2 compatible radios. So that's one of the things that's on the horizon that will probably be, you know, probably the capital expense over the next 5 to 6 years as we start replacing the radios. Some of the radios now have been in service since 2011. So they're getting towards where they'll need to be replaced. The consultants will tell you that 10 years for a portable radio or a handheld radio is what we get. So On our last system, we were able to stretch that to anywhere between 12 and 14 years. And I think a lot of that is because of the maintenance contract and what we do with Raycom and how they go through and do the preventative maintenance. So kind of what we're hoping is we wind down the loan. If it's possible, if we have remaining loan funds to put towards some of them old radios to replace them. We just don't have all the expenses in on the loan, and Denise can talk a little bit more about that as where we're sitting with that. But rather than making an ask for next year, and then we'll have everything wrapped up that we can hopefully during next year's budget presentation come to you with a multi-year replacement plan rather than and there's also still the possibility for some, like we did with the fire radios last time, and in the sheriff's office and police department also were able to use some of the CARES Act money, I believe, for some radio purchases. And we're hoping that, the Fire Act grant where we were able to get almost $900,000 in the 2013-14 range to replace radios, if that'd be a possibility for us. So that's probably the big thing on the horizon now. Finishing up the P25 radio switch over, and then that'll probably be our biggest thing that'll be coming up is the radio replacement. The mobile radios, they last, obviously they're in the vehicle, so they last quite a bit longer, the 15-year lifespan, but they might be able to get longer than that, especially in the fire trucks. But the handhelds really take a beating, with the officers carrying them as well as the volunteer fire departments, and their people carry them 24/7 as their ways of communication. So, and I believe that should cover most of the stuff that is most of the items that are in the Department 75. With exception to the buyout money, and I really don't have much to do with that. So that was the buyout property out by Durango, I believe. So, but I do not know of any other projects going on with that either. So, questions that one of us can answer or clarifications, or I hope that helps to explain kind of the different grants and everything we're dealing with. Oops, Ann, you're muted yet.
Sorry, Stella, are you going to walk us through budget worksheet to see what the specific improvement requests are, the additional requested budget items? How will we know that? I don't see anything in Tom's presentation that talks about costs.
I don't believe that there's any additional requested budget items this year in particular, Tom.
No, I mean, other than, and we just, on the worksheet there, we just plugged in what we knew with the grants that were coming in and going out, but any of them funds are kind of just status quo, with the exception of the radios, but I mean, we're not asking for anything for next year on them. Hopefully
the costs that Tom had on his slide for 911, which included the I am responding, and I forget what was at the top of that. Those are actually projects within the 911 fund, and they are not requests for funding from the county. Oh, the phone system. Those are included in the 911 budget, which will be acted on next Wednesday night.
So is this then would be considered, there's no additional spending, it's pretty much just a status quo budget?
Yes. One other thing that is out there, excuse me, and I don't know when you're doing or how you're doing the capital projects. There is $850,000 transfer budgeted. It was moved from FY20 to FY21 for buying out the lease on the towers that were constructed as part of the radio system and out of the loan proceeds. That transfer is being made from I believe it's general basic, to the loan proceeds fund, the radio system fund, Fund 1502. There's $850,000 budgeted for that transfer currently. The 911 board has been making the lease payments on that currently. So I don't know what the exact amount of the buyout will be. Tom, can you clarify? We will be anticipate final payment to Raycom on the system final acceptance to be in the end of March, beginning of April timeframe.
Believe so, yes. Hopefully.
And then following that, the hope would be that the tower buyout would occur or can occur, that there's time there to get that done prior to the end of the fiscal year. I would anticipate that it will not take the full $850,000 since we have been making lease payments on the towers for a longer amount of time than was anticipated. But as of right now, I can't tell you exactly what that amount will be, but possibly that can be adjusted in the last budget amendment of the year if necessary. I would anticipate it will go down. I would not anticipate it going up.
Are there questions from supervisors?
I do not have any.
I have nothing. Thank you.
Thank you both very much.
Thanks.
Greatly appreciated.
Thanks. We'll plan on seeing you all again next Wednesday night.
Absolutely.
Thank you all.
Have a good one, Denise.
Thanks.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too.
Are folks okay with continuing? We'll have another presentation maybe before we take a break.
I'm good.
Okay,
I'm good.
all right.
I'm gonna stop sharing, I'm sure.
So next we would have on our agenda the zoning department. So Tammy, I see your camera on. Oh, there she.
Yeah, I am. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Can you
So I'm
share
gonna
your?
go ahead and, yeah, try to share my screen here. Host disabled participant screen sharing. Let's try it over here.
Dawn, can you make Tammy a co-host?
Amy, you, oh,
Are you seeing it now?
nope, here we go.
Give us 1 minute.
Okay,
Try it now.
all right, let me try it now and see if it works. Oh, here we go. Make sure I have the correct one. I do, okay.
See it there.
Everybody seeing that now? Good, okay. Good afternoon, supervisors.
Well, it was there and now it's gone. We have
It's
I
gone?
have a completely black screen.
Let me see here. Let's try it one more way here. Can you see it again now?
Yes, I see it.
Okay, well, I'm going to be turning my head because it's on a different screen here. Okay, so, all right. All right, so we'll go ahead and we'll get started with our zoning budget presentation for you. So thank you, everybody, for allowing us to speak and give an opportunity to explain what we're doing. I'm going to go ahead and for Supervisor Potoff's benefit, I'm going to go through this a little bit and kind of maybe explain a little bit more of what our mission is and what our purpose is and what we're kind of doing, and then we'll work into our numbers and things like that, okay? So, you know, our mission is to provide excellent customer service. You know, we're here to help the county residents effectively and consistently, you know, and of course, our job here is to be courteous and help them with their applications regarding their land use in the unincorporated areas of the county, and to solicit public input on pending applications and develop plans and ordinances and amendments to facilitate plan development in and around the cities while preserving valuable agricultural land in the county. The purpose of the land use regulations in the county is to preserve the availability of agricultural land, protect the public's health and general welfare, encourage efficient urban development patterns, and efficiently plan and provide public facilities and infrastructure. Our land use ordinances were developed in accordance to the Iowa chapter codes 18B, 335, 354, and 335, and are based on the comprehensive plan for Dubuque County that was developed in 2013. The regulations are made reasonable in consideration as to the character of the area, suitability for an area for a particular use, conserving the land and buildings, and we're encouraging the most appropriate uses of the land throughout the county. Turn for my notes here too. So, the zoning structure starts by our zoning board. And as you're all aware, this year we had some changes with zoning board members and as well as our Board of Adjustment members. And so, we're working with them right now to try to educate and help people understand, maybe what the zoning is supposed to be more about. And we're going to, try to be doing some training with them on some of this. But, the zoning board is a recommending body and it's appointed by the Board of Supervisors yourselves. And they're responsible for reviewing the plats, rezoning applications, and zoning amendments for the supervisor's approval. We're supposed to be updating the comprehensive plan and recommend the areas for future development in the county. And, I know that is something that there's been a statement that needs to be updated every 5 years. And that is not on our plan for this year because we're still going to be working on a lot of other projects, but we do know that is something in the future that we're going to have to be doing an update on. The Board of Supervisors, they're the legislative body and they have the final say on any approval of our plats, our rezoning applications, and our zoning amendments, and any adoption of the comprehensive plan. Any appeal of the Board of Supervisors decision must go to a district court. So then we also work closely with the Board of Adjustment. So the Board of Adjustment is a quasi-judicial board appointed by the Board of Supervisors again, and they're responsible for approving any variances, special use permits. They, hearing appeals to the zoning administrator's decisions, the authority to approve and modify or deny any applications, and any appeal of a Board of Adjustment decision must go to the district court. So the Board of Adjustment is, the acting courts for Dubuque County. And if someone is not happy with their decision, then it would go to the courts. It would not come back to the supervisors. So I'm going to go over just a little bit of our zoning activity for the year. We did not slow down during COVID. We stayed fairly busy. As you can see, we had 39 cases. So our Board of Adjustment cases went down a little bit. Our zoning cases maintained the same. Our certificates, which would be our permits, they were slightly up. Our plats, that number will show that we're slightly down, but we have probably 10 incompleted plats that we've started processing that just aren't finished yet. Our complaints were down a little bit. Our floodplain permits were up. And as you can see, we added quite a few new addresses to the county. And then again, our minor and erosion control permits were up. And we had our entrance permits were up. And if you'll notice, we had our entrance permit variances. They only show 2. That if Supervisor Potoff, the board decided that they would allow Anthony to make decisions on some of those. And so we're not doing an appeal to the board for all these entrances that meet the safety standards for the highway department. So that's why those variance numbers have dropped.
Yeah.
Okay, and then this is our complaints filed in 2020. As you can see, we had 12 complaints and we have 8 completed, and we are still working on the others. And as you all are aware, we're working on some larger cases that we're still working with people on those. Our achievements for the year. We were able to scan and zone all of the Board of Adjustment cases, the building permits, and the official notices. We are working on scanning in the agendas, the minutes, and they're currently being ported to the Tyler system. So that was a huge project for us, and we do have a temp helping us with that because it's a very time-consuming process. We completed the zoning ordinance updates, C1 through airport districts, which was huge. And thank you for everything that you did to help us get that done, and Denise as well. We worked with the IT to set up home offices, to continue to office operations during our pandemic. We did not, but there was always somebody in our office, but we did try to remotely work as needed. So our current projects for 2021 continue to work with the IT to import and scanning the projects and to finish the documents. Continue to have temp personnel complete import and indexing of scanned documents with the expected completion of that in June of 2021. So that again is the funded money that's been moved forward. And so that's really not affecting our budget at this point. We're going to continue to work both on the zoning and the plating ordinances. We're going to try to be developing some new ordinances. We're working on getting information for the Airbnb, the solar, and celebration barns. Those are some that we're hoping to accomplish, and actually even potentially accomplish them by July. That would be a goal that we would try to have. We're working on zoning violations and continue to clean up of properties that are in violation. We're going to continue to train the staff on policy changes, and we're going to continue to cross-train in our office. And we're also going to be trying to continue education for the Board of Adjustment as well as our zoning board members. We also are going to continue to, we were originally projected to be completed in 2 years with our zoning code update. And now we're hoping that we can be completed with that by the end of next year or the middle of the year. Now we're on schedule to be completed, like I said, by 2021, and the zoning board will continue to work on this over the next 12 months. We're going to continue to work closely with the zoning board, Board of Supervisors to hold the public hearings. We'll be working with Kevin and getting the publications and getting them correct. And then our expenditures have went up just because of publication costs. So we've already amended our budget, and we amended that for $15,000 because we did not know those publication costs were going to be that expensive. We are projecting that we'll only need another $2,000 for the 2022 fiscal year. And we're just, we're sitting in a situation where at this point we are doing really well. We don't have expenditures that we're expecting other than publication cost. Staff is continuing to work hard and cross-training each other so that we really, don't miss a beat. We're going to continue with great public service. We feel that we've been doing a really good job with that, and continue to work closely with both of our boards and as well as the Board of Supervisors. Does anybody have any questions for me?
I have a few, a couple. I had anticipated you would have an increased cost for some of the, I'm aware that we might need to have Denise Dolan help us with some final zoning issues sometime during this next fiscal year. I think it's beyond July 1st. Maybe it's going to be late spring, early summer. I'm not sure. Mm-hmm. Is that in your budget somewhere? I know you didn't quite get everything done we had hoped to get done with her help.
Well, we have the $15,000 amendment that we made, and that will cover us through July. Okay. So the extra $2,000 that we're thinking would take us beyond that if we needed those. Okay. And some of those publication costs will come from the auditor's office as well.
Okay. So that is built in. That's not something we just failed to. It's already included. It's in probably in amendment number 3 or something.
It is.
To the current budget year. Okay. And then I also just wanted to mention, obviously overall, I think your budget is a decrease. So that's appreciated at this time when we balance all these things. And I wanted to just talk a minute about, there's an increase in your line item for training, I think. Isn't that where that comes?
Yes.
Some training for staff. And I personally think that's a very wise thing to do, because you have so many new members of the zoning board and the Board of Adjustment, and those boards need to work well, or we get, it really drags down the county's ability to get stuff done efficiently, and it's not good customer service. So I was glad to see that there. If you I know you're looking ahead to kind of take that on as well.
Yes.
So wise to get that done. But
I've already forwarded on to Supervisor Potoff the opportunity for the training for the one training that everybody else has taken from the Iowa State University training. So we are going to get him signed up. I'm also going to be referring that on to the Board of Adjustment, any new members as well. Well, and any old members that want to retake that. And then I need to just be trying to find out whether other opportunities are out there for further training.
right. And of course, I mean, ECIA, but I'm just wondering what catalog of things they might be able to share with you. And Tammy, I admire that you belong to your zoning administrator. I'm going to call it a work group. I know it's not that. I think it's an online support system that you belong to, that it's been beneficial. So I see here, I think you're spot on in a lot of, your budget. It looks good, I think.
Well, and I was kind of laughing, Ann, as I was listening to Anthony and Tom, and I thought, boy, those are heck of shows to follow, because I remember not got that much compared to what our budget is. Pretty basic, I mean, our budget is pretty basic. We don't have a lot of needs. We're more about service. We're not grant funded. We're not doing those kind of things. So I thought that was they were pretty hard acts to follow.
But when I first met you, you were in the old building and you had a fleet of vehicles parked on the old driveway out there that really didn't even run. So kudos to you for getting us to a place where we feel like we have an office. Obviously, the supervisors over the past many years have been responsive, but I think you're in a much better place where your budget isn't those roller coaster items of needing expensive upgrades.
We are. The new building and all of those things that came along with it took care of a lot of our needs.
Very good. Any other questions for Tammy Henry?
Tammy, could
None
you
for
just,
me.
sorry, Jay. Tammy, could you just explain the difference between Board of Adjustment and the zoning board again?
Sure. So the zoning board, everything they do is they're a recommendation board. So they look at the rules, they look at the ordinance, and they recommend to you as the supervisors. So the final say does come to the supervisors for any of the zoning ordinance changes or any of the zoning cases, plats, etc. The Board of Adjustment is the board that is what they call the quasi judicial board. They act more as a independent board from the supervisors, and they actually have a responsibility that's resembling that of a court or a judge. So they have to be really prepared and obligated to be objective about their decisions, because if they deny somebody, the next step for those people is to take that to court. So you will not see Board of Adjustment cases to the Board of Supervisors.
So they come after us. If we would turn something down, it would go to the Board of Adjustment?
No. If it's turned down by you, unless it was a situation where there was a case that could come into play, that they could try another option, they could go to the Board of Adjustment. But the cases that we bring to you, that they need to be coming to you. And once you've denied it, you've denied it. Now, yes, of course, anybody has the right to take even your board to court if they're not happy with a decision that you've made.
Okay, so if the zoning board would turn it down, they could go to the Board of Adjustment.
No.
Okay.
So Harley, Supervisor Potoff, everything that comes to you comes from the zoning board.
Right.
If the zoning board denies it and it comes to you and you feel that you decide that that the zoning board really probably shouldn't have made that decision, you have the right to make your own decision on this. So once that's finished, that's finished. There's no other place for them to go unless that individual felt that the Board of Supervisors were doing it in such a way that they didn't feel that you were following the rules or being fair. Then they would eventually get an attorney and take the Board of Supervisors to court over that issue. Now, if you go to the Board of Adjustment, It strictly goes to them. You will not, as a supervisor, see the Board of Adjustment cases.
Okay, so they can either go to zoning board or board of adjustment.
Correct, correct.
Okay,
And you enter into that based on, Tammy's got series of procedures and different requests that are made to different places. Some things are just zoning requests to change, and others are where you need an adjustment. Something's maybe already been done. And
Right.
so you need to go, it doesn't come to us to use discretion. It goes to a board that operates at a little higher, I don't want to say higher level, but we don't give them input. They certainly don't seek our input. They operate independently. Citizens looking at it as a final resolution.
Right.
Because those things go up to the district court. So, but Tammy's got where you enter in and how they interplay.
Yeah.
So it,
I followed a little better.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
look at what they need and we try to find what is their best avenue to get what they're asking for and where does it fit? And so that's why some of that stuff you'll never see. You might hear about it, you might have somebody call you about it, but we'll do that. And again, Supervisor Potoff, like we said, we gladly, have a little one-on-one with you at some point to give you a little more education about what we do, why we do it, and how we go about it.
Okay,
but somebody builds a property somewhere they shouldn't have, or they put a garage on somewhere they shouldn't have. Rezoning it isn't really going to help them so much
No.
as it is they need an adjustment that doesn't have anything to do with our discretion.
So again, to go off with what Supervisor McDonough is saying, so, it's about, I want to build a garage and I need to put it in this location, but I can't meet the setbacks. So they can go to the Board of Adjustment and say, this is the best spot for it. And instead of being 10 feet off the road, I'd like to be 7 feet off the road. And the board can look at that and make that decision.
okay. I follow you. Variance per se.
Yes, a variance.
All right. Thank you, Tammy.
You're welcome.
And I thought I heard Supervisor Wickham say he didn't have questions. I don't know if he wants to add any experience to the discussion about the different boards, or if we're moving on.
I'm okay to move on.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tammy, very much. We're an hour and a half in. Can I ask for a brief recess? Let's do maybe till a quarter of the hour, so till 2:45.
I'll make a motion to recess till 2:45.
I will second that.
We have a motion, a second, to recess until 2:45. All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion carries. We'll see everyone back at 2:45. All right, welcome back. I believe we have everyone. So we'll go ahead and go back into session. Stella, are you with us? I see her picture.
Yes, I am here.
Go ahead.
So next on our agenda, we have our Veterans Assistance Department, and I see Randy has joined us, and Tammy asked in chat if she could share her PowerPoint. So John, can you make Randy and
Well,
Tammy-
I'm actually using Tammy's computer. So
okay.
We're in the conference room. I got two of my commissioners here also.
Gotcha, great.
Sharon and Tom Parsley. Sharon Turnholm and Tom Parsley are here, but they're back in the corner a little bit, do a little social distancing.
Randy, you should be able to share your screen now.
Can you see it?
Yep, there we go.
Ooh. There we go. Okay, good afternoon, supervisors. Like I said, Tammy's in the room with me along with two of my commissioners, Tom Parsley and Sharon Turnholm. Ray Owensby couldn't make it due to upcoming knee surgery. So we'll go ahead and kick off if it's all right with you guys.
Great, welcome everyone.
Thank you.
Welcome, everyone.
Okay, just like every other department this year, it's been kind of a little hectic, especially with us trying to do outreach. Our biggest one we did this year was Toys for Tots. Bryce Parks called us up, asked if we could possibly help him out. Since the recorder was over in the conference room where we usually do our Toys for Tots, we went ahead and down to the Vets Freedom Center. They gave us their location. And as you can see, we kind of filled up their whole dining room facility with all the toys along back in the pool room, which was very grateful. And Bryce Parks really thanked us and the Vets Freedom Center for really helping him out this year, since he couldn't do the Five Flags, which lost about 1,000 kids not receiving choice. So, but they're very thankful for us doing this for them. We did bought some things that we're going to do for our outreach. The top ones are military pens we're going to hand out for our spaghetti dinner that we usually do down at the Moose Lodge. It's just our veteran pens. We were able to find some, so we went ahead and got all the branches. We had bags made, and then also some decals for the vehicles. But of course, we're sitting on them quite a bit. If veterans do come in, we actually try to hand them out pretty much to them. As you see with the flags that we purchase, we're going to be using them quite a bit for our outreach and everything else. So we got the American flag along with all the military branches. And then we just bought some up to the left-hand side, the Army, Marine, Navy, and Air Force is just little plaques that we put in the conference room to kind of make it like a military theme inside our conference room.
Randy, this is Ann and Harley letting you know your slides you're not forwarding. So we are still on the screen share. We're still at your initial screen. We see that I see your smaller pictures to the side, but your screens are not advancing. Did you have a question for him, Harley?
No, I was just going to say the same thing.
Oh, hold on here real quick. Okay.
I think you want to be now probably on screen 4, the artwork.
Yep. Yep, the artwork is our screen 4.
Right, and that's not showing up. We're still at screen 1.
Oh, okay. Hold on here real quick. Can you see it now?
We see, yes, there's screen 4. Very good. Yes.
Okay. Sorry, I missed my click something wrong, but okay. The artwork, we usually give that out around Christmas time. I know that the radio station up in Dubuque are going to be making Valentine cards for our veterans down in Iowa City. So Last year, we went ahead and took them down to Iowa City, met up with Brian Clark down there to hand out to veterans that are actually in the Iowa City VA Medical Center down there. And then we also handed some up to our Dubuque clinic, and they handed it out to some veterans up there. So more than likely, we're going to be doing that again. But with COVID restrictions, we'll probably have to meet Brian outside the main hospital because they're only allowing people in that actually have appointments. And then our next slide is what we usually talk about, our comp and pen. As you see, we're still doing pretty strongly here. We're doing quite a bit intake on a lot of claims. The Dubuque Alpha Company 133rd, they're going to be coming back here shortly. So we're going to probably see an uptick in some of the claims there because now they're considered veterans. And I've been talking to the first sergeant for their group, and he wants us to come out and present a class to the soldiers when they return to actually start VA process, because a lot of times it's a lot easier to do their claims while they just got out of the military instead of waiting 30 years, because then you got to find a bunch of medical evidence and a bunch of other stuff. So, but we kind of compared to the other counties. So as you can see, state of Iowa, we still got about 200,000 veterans, and roughly they bring in about $714 million into the state of Iowa. And then here in Dubuque, we're bringing about a little over 22 million, which is pretty good on compensation and pensions. And later on in the slide, you'll see, we kind of broke it down a little bit on what each award letter means.
Randy, can I interrupt you for a minute? I know some young people in the 133rd, and I'm just concerned. What kinds of claims would you want them to start registering for? I mean,
well, they got to realize they get 5 years of free health care through the VA. A lot of times, a lot of veterans do not go to sick call quite a bit. So if they have any ailments when they get out, they have 1 year after they get discharged to actually file a claim to, qualify for maybe some benefits, compensation side of the house. So that's where, but the healthcare is really big. You have 5 free years of free healthcare, and then get seen there. And that a lot of times they use that as evidence when they actually file their claim for like back, shoulder, knees, so forth like that.
right. So it's really an opportunity to get some good education and just kind of the first introduction to who you are in your office as well.
Yep. And then,
awesome.
So First Sergeant Kelson, that Casey Kittleson, that I served with over in Iraq and Afghanistan myself, me and him have been going back in Messenger. And so we're trying to come up with a date to actually sit down with all the group and talk about stuff like that. And then here, the VBA, the Veteran Benefit Administration down in Des Moines, they actually were giving us monthly award letters, but I asked if they could break it down by county. Now this is where they come down by the counties on how much is coming in. So roughly, they're saying almost, 1,169 veterans here in Dubuque County are receiving, $1.6 million in just compensation alone, which is quite a bit of money. And the life pension, that's usually individuals that cannot work anymore, the veteran, but they have to be a wartime era veteran to qualify for that. And they usually get roughly about, it's like $11.87 now because the cost of living kind of went up. And then the death pension is for widows or surviving spouses. And then DIC is for surviving spouses where their husband passed or a wife passed away from service connected. The death pension, it's based off income, but DIC is a monthly award about, I think this year is like $13.85. They raised it up a little bit. So, and then the total veterans, that includes surviving spouses that are receiving benefits. So. And the state of Iowa continued. So they show all 99 counties pretty much. And then here's what I was talking about earlier about how much is coming in, what each compensation pension, death pension, and the DIC actually means by VA standards. Any questions on the type of, and then you also got to realize we don't really get a lot of information on that, but schooling. So if they're, can't think of the name now, through the VA, like a work grant, they, a lot of veterans get extra money for that too. So, but we don't really get that amount at all. Any questions on the counties? And then I put it around our counties because a lot of the Clayton, Delaware, Jackson, and Jones, a lot of them individuals do come to Dubuque to probably shop. So I just kind of threw their amounts in. So.
I don't have any questions. I think you can proceed.
And then here's what the VA sends us every year or every month now. Tells you exactly from 0 to 100%, how many veterans passed away, how many new veterans they've received in their claims. A lot of the new ones now, as you see, it's going up is because the, here in a little bit, you'll see another slide, but the Brownwater Navy Act, where the Congress just passed the blue water to the brown water. And so a lot of them are going through. We just had 2 people call today that been waiting roughly 8 years to get claims, and it actually came through. Our biggest one that we received so far was a widow. Her husband passed away, and they actually went back to 2005 at 100%. So she got roughly a $500 million or $500,000 back check from the VA. But then we had to go into it. They had children, so I had to do dependency. The couple of them went to college, so I had to do college. So we, make sure the veteran and their surviving spouses are being taken care of. So, but as you can see, it's quite a bit of money being spent here in Iowa and also like to Dubuque County and their surrounding areas. Any questions on this one?
Not from me.
And, this is the one I was telling you about, the Blue Water Act. They went back, I think 12 nautical miles, and that was the big hiccup. They want to know what 12 nautical miles were. They figured it all out, and then now they got the Agent Orange exposure. Along with the Agent Orange, they just added 3 new presumptive diseases, bladder cancer, thyroidism, and hypertension. So we're getting a lot of phone calls from individuals that were denied for these issues. And so we got to reopen them up for them and send in their claim to either their service organization, or we send them right to Janesville Intake Center. And then hopefully this year we can go ahead and start our outreach again by holding our hamburger, hot dog kind of cookout, and then our spaghetti dinner again this year. So. And then another big one was the virtual appeals. And that's why I was trying to get a camera here in the conference room. We've got some older veterans that don't want to go to Des Moines for their appeal. And if we have a camera here, kind of like what we're doing today, they can talk to the judge in Washington, DC, along with their service organization down in Des Moines. And then if we ever have to get paperwork to Des Moines, we got their fax numbers, so we can send it right to them pretty quickly. And then at our last commissioner meeting, just last Wednesday, the commissioners requested, as you see by the piece of paper, a 4% wage increase for the veteran staff.
Randy, how much is the camera? I don't know where I'm supposed to see that at.
I've been working with Nathan. And I think they're looking into the pricing. But we would probably take it out of one of our line items. Because I don't think it would be that expensive. But I'm not the IT person to ask.
Okay.
But I know Nathan's reached out to me, and he thought it was a great idea with our appeal process, especially with our older veterans. that really don't know how to use a computer. And then also, like I said, it really helps out if the American Legion DAV down in Des Moines in the regional office need some kind of paperwork, we can send it right quickly by fax to them. Now, I don't know if Nathan's on the line, but I know he's been looking into it for us. So we've been talking off and on about this camera.
Okay.
Any questions or?
I have a few, imagine that. Can you talk about the veterans relief and what you're doing for your food pantry and how have those claims been going? I know COVID has obviously, required you to redo even how you do some of those, that outreach and service. How is that going?
Well, the veterans food pantry has been going very well. For some reason, we talk about it at our commission meeting quite a bit because our commissioners are kind of dumbfounded too that we really have not had a lot of requests for rent utilities, but our food pantry, we're getting few requests for that. And we do still have a couple individuals that will be dropping off canned goods every month along with the $50 check from the, what organization was that? VFW. And then we only did about 20 vouchers, like I said, so far for relief for the veteran side of the house.
Okay.
We did receive from Balltown, we received a check from their organization out there for the food pantry, another one in Christmas time, and then other individuals will just stop by with their cans, goods and stuff like that, or they'll take them to the Veterans Freedom Center, thinking that's where the food pantry is. Then Jim Wagner and his staff would call us and then we'll go down and pick them up from them.
Okay. We do have a comment in chat from Nathan Gilmore, the IT director, and he says that he's not going to need a capital purchase for that camera. He's probably thinking you might even be able to handle it in-house. So
Okay.
no expenditure there. My question on the other issue is, my other question is about the railing outside of your offices. That's just not good. I mean, it's metal, it's been months and it's wood attached to metal. What's going on?
I know Chris Soder was over here today. I don't know if he was looking at it. I do know where they come up the ramp towards the back.
Yeah.
They took that back railing off. So now they got a piece of wood, but they don't shovel that back. So we kind of keep an eye on it because then we'll go out and salt it. That way they come up the ramp. And the city did try to clean out the front parking spots again, but not very good. So luckily for us, we talk about that PIV card that I have. And then I know Tammy, Michelle, Nick, and Doug, they're working on theirs to get it. We can do a lot of stuff over the phone with the veterans after we get POA signed on them. This week, we just had a big meeting. I think about 13 classes we have so far this week with the VBA. And one of them's about the PIV card. So Tammy's reaching out to Dickerson that's down the VBA to actually try to get us all them qualified to get that PIV card.
Right. So you think my call on this railing is to Chris Soder that it's nothing to do with you and your staff. That's a facilities guy, right?
Right. They took it down and
how long ago?
At least 3 months. And I just know with the snow and stuff in the back of the ramp, there's still snow there. So when it's hot, it melts. And then I know my coworker, Michelle, she uses a cane. So she has to be careful when she goes around that, down the ramp and stuff. But we do try to put salt down there when we know that it's pretty icy out.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know if my colleagues are aware of this disaster, but that's what it is. So I know we're in budget session, but we have a really horrible situation outside of veterans, and you see it every time you go down to the courthouse. That railing situation is not to anybody's standard. So.
And then my commissioners are also saying, that it's very unsafe. So And they're grateful that, we're able to do a lot of stuff with that PIP card and do everything
Yeah.
over the phone.
Right, but
So,
that
but
might be
they
why you don't
also-
have, maybe that's why you don't have veterans coming in asking you for any help.
Right, well, we kind of,
You know?
we kind of know our veterans, and if we know that they have to use that ramp, we kind of try to do everything over the phone with them. That way they don't have to come down here and risk their, safety. And then I know I would feel, and my staff and the commissioners would feel really upset if they slip and fall over that piece of wood onto the alleyway or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, County Attorney May will feel really bad if they slip and fall too.
So.
The county in general will.
Okay, well, we'll take that up offline, I guess, but if you've been making any, something's ringing on my email, maybe somebody wants to comment, but all the same, those are my questions.
And
My
then
colleagues-
also, to get back to the budget, we had no increase. We're keeping everything the same. As you can see, like I said, we don't know what's going to happen after COVID lifts, if we're going to get a big fluctuation, or if when the moratorium comes down off the evictions and utilities. But a lot of the veterans that do seek assistance, they kind of know that they better not come in with a big bill, because our commissioners are kind of hard nosed on it, and they will kind of go back to the military ways, especially our First Sergeant Ray. He kind of makes his point that he's the big first sergeant, so, but he puts them in their place.
Overall, I would say, well done, good work. You're doing the things to help veterans and their dependents as best you can, and that's pretty tremendous in the COVID time. So I know veterans would be probably a vulnerable population because of exposure to various things over, their
Right.
service life, so.
Now, when we show the veteran population, that 1,100, I think the VBA, or not VBA, the CBOC up there, I think the last count, they had over almost 10,000 veterans going through the CBOC, and they're waiting for us to get up there to kind of do some training with them again, like Nick and Doug going up there every other day to help out with claims for healthcare, or even especially our Vietnam vets that are getting up in age and anything exposed to Agent Orange, they can get right there and we can do an intent to file, start that claim right away. So they're waiting for the doors open, but they're using the room they gave us. That's where they're doing the shots now. So.
And I did see some information from you about vaccines.
Right. The last I heard was now they're bumping it down to 65, and along with some presumptive conditions. So Brian said that they're going to be sending out letters to get people up, but I know it's going to, if they get it from Iowa City and they get it here to Dubuque, they got 7 hours to use up the vaccine, the type they use. So they want to make sure they have enough veterans here in Dubuque to get the vaccine before they start bringing it here to Dubuque.
Well, let us know if there's something we can be doing to assist that. I didn't realize until you and I met a few weeks back that your vaccinations were coming. I mean, I guess it's obvious when you think about it, they're coming from the veterans. So you're on a different supply chain with different priority status. But if you need us to do something to be helpful with that for space or any, I think we'd all be helpful in trying to figure out those logistics if you need, if we can.
Yeah, I know Ed Raber and myself, he's been giving him the information, and I think he's been passing on to Board of Health. Because I don't know if they actually communicate with the VA, since it's a federal side of the house.
Yeah.
But Iowa City was pretty much one of the last, well, it was the last VA center here in Iowa to get the vaccine. I know Omaha and Des Moines and Sioux City, they all been doing it for like last month and a half. And they've been doing Saturday meetings also to get the vaccine out to the people.
My last question would be about the 4% increase. I don't know that we'll be deciding that today. The compensation, we've been kind of deferring, I think, to look at the overall budget, but is there something that you or the commissioners wanted to say to us that's not in the letter? Are other, VAs, are you seeing others? Are we falling behind other counties? I mean, do you have anything you want to say to us about that?
Well, I'm going to turn the camera a little bit That way you can talk to the commissioners and they can answer it.
Sure, that'd be great.
There's Sharon and then oh, there's Tom. So sorry about that.
You're making like a meme that's gonna run around on the media here. Sharon's gone. There you are. Okay. Anyway, what would you like us to know? Anything that helps us make a decision would be good.
No different than any other employee of the county. Our people have stretched themselves to the end to reach out and take care of our veterans and their dependents. And they've continued their education on furthering the knowledge that they have to share with these veterans. And because of that, we're recommending a 4% increase.
Thank you. Supervisors Potoff and Wickham, do we have any questions?
I have no questions.
FYI, our staff worked in office during COVID. And I don't know how many ended up testing positive, but I think they've gone well above and beyond what was asked of them. Anyway, that's my opinion. Thanks for listening. Congrats, Hardy, on winning, and I'm done.
Well, I think you make a good point, though. I think, Tom, about that it's a different type of frontline worker. You know, the jail staff obviously have been there, and county staff have been trading spots in and out. But, you know, when you're providing an essential service, you don't, and you can't always work from home either. So good point that they have, you know, been in-house every day. So thank you.
Thanks, Sam.
Thank you.
Yep,
Thanks,
appreciate what
Randy.
you guys
Thanks,
do.
Tom.
Thank you all very much. And nothing further with the veterans. And Stella, can we go back to you? Thank you, Randy.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Randy.
Thanks, Randy. So up next we have the treasurer department, and I was looking and I gave Eric a heads up, but I don't see him quite on the call yet. Eric, shout out if you're here. So I do see John Murphy. So the last two on the agenda would be the treasurer and the recorder. So if we want to switch around, and I'll try to reach back out to Eric. If John wants to start his presentation next, we can just flip flop those two. Hey, yes.
Hi, John. Does that work for you okay?
Absolutely. I was worried about getting out of here and picking up the kids on time, so maybe that won't be an issue. I'm
Good to
perfectly
see
happy.
you. Good to see
Thank
you.
you.
And John, you're a co-host, so you should be able to share your screen with everyone.
Got it. Let's see. This is the first time I have shared a screen. We'll see how it goes.
Now, you know your son could do this in about 30 seconds, right?
You're probably correct. Let's see. Okay. That's the one I do. Share.
We see that you're starting to share your screen, and now we have a presentation with all of your news media feed. There we go.
That it?
Yeah, you're on screen one with your other slides down the side. So it looks like you're at a beginning point.
Perfect. Okay. So the first thing I want to reference is that the recorder's office here in Dubuque is that we are one of, maybe somewhere between half a dozen and a dozen recorders that are self-sustaining. So since I've taken office, we have saved taxpayers a little over $500,000. That's including the supplemental costs for the office. And those are all for service fees. So that's a combination of our DNR, our vital records, as well as our real estate. So I just like to bring that fact up that we pay for ourselves, and then hopefully make lives a little bit easier for you guys as well when it comes to making budget decisions. So what we do, all of our duties are, the fees that are charged are legislated under chapter 331.601 of the Iowa Code. And we work with 3 different state departments, the Iowa Department of Public Health, the Department of Natural Resources, and the Department of Revenue. This here shows the expenses since I have come in office, so 2015 to present. You will see an uptick here in 2020. That is due to 2 factors, one of which is so last fiscal year we went, it was, I think, just right around 350, and now it's just under 400,000. That was due to 2 things, one of which was about a $7,000 increase in payroll, and then there was about a $42,000 increase in imaging and storage. And I'll get into where exactly that $42,000 went here in a few minutes. But that's just a general overview of where our expenses have went. And then our revenue here, again, showing what we've done since I've come into office. The nice part is that we had a big spike that you don't see yet, but it will be here a year from now, I guess. When we're doing this presentation again, you'll see a very significant uptick on one that wouldn't currently fit on that chart, which means you guys will have more money to spend from, at least from our department's contributions. This is our expenses for the general supplemental. Again, since I've come into office, and most of that is essentially, right beyond my control. It has to do with wages and insurance costs, those sort of things. And here is what we're looking at, again, over the last few years, as far as what our revenue has been. If you look at our year to date for 2020, 2021, we're at $581,000 at the end of the calendar year. That is more than we initially projected for the entire year. It's about $10,000 less than we had the year prior. We went from 550,000 to 590,000, and this year we're projecting to be up over 700,000. So it should be a very good year when it comes to the revenue that the recorder's office brings in, and the vast majority of that's going to be to the recording of instruments. So that is all of our land records, and the money that comes from everything from filing deeds, refinancing, mortgages, home equity lines of credit, all those things that come through the office. That's where that money's generated. So you've seen some articles talking about how healthy the real estate market has been locally, and that's, we're kind of the end result where that money ultimately ends up. Another place that we've done very well over the last couple of years is our vital records. And that is primarily due to the fact that if you go to get a new driver's license and you want that gold star so you can fly and you can go into federal buildings, you need to come in with a certified birth certificate that most people don't typically have sitting at home, ironically. So we get a lot of people coming in for birth records. And then for those that get married and have a name change when they get married, they also need to bring in their marriage license. So we've had a significant uptick over the last probably 18 months. That gold star requirement was supposed to be in October of 2020. That got extended to October 1st of 2021 due to COVID. They delayed that, and we're doing everything that we can to accommodate the public to get those birth records. Because I know right now, I think it's about a 5-6 week process to get into the DOT. So people go to the DOT and realize they don't have this stuff. We get calls from the DOT office as well as just individuals trying to squeeze them in, and we've been doing our best to get those folks in, get them the records that they need, and then they can oftentimes get back out to the DOT same day.
Can I ask you right there, if I know maybe it's a segue that you just about appointment time and making any exceptions to get people in. As you talk about, gold star and people with some crushing, deadlines and things, how is it running for your appointment schedule and people that maybe can't wait quite that long?
Yeah, so I have a very conservative number of appointments that you can sign up for on a daily basis because of the number of people that are calling with a sense of urgency to get those vital records. Our goal is that we're doing appointments basically from 9 a.m. Or 10 a.m. till 3 p.m. And then we offer the first hour and a half in the morning and the last hour and a half in the afternoon for runners and for funeral homes to come get their stuff, so that we don't have many people sitting in our office waiting to be served at the same time. We are doing our best to serve one customer at a time and then clean between every customer. And that's been pretty successful. We're probably, in all honesty, we're only doing 6 appointments a day that you can sign up for in advance. That said, we're probably squeezing another 5 to 10 people on average per day. We also kind of have an agreement with the treasurer's office that if somebody thinks they need to see the recorder to register their trailer, we're not gonna, we send them over to the treasurer's office. The treasurer's office is gonna honor that appointment. And then we do the same for anybody that goes to the treasurer's office with an appointment. We're gonna honor it over here so that if folks get in the door, they've made every effort to do it the right way. We're gonna get them served and move them on so that they don't need to schedule it again. So it's went well. For the expense side, you can see that for the most part, we've kind of kept that steady. We anticipate keeping it pretty steady again this year. The one spot that we do have that uptick is the imaging, storage, and services, and I'll get into that a little bit again here in just a moment as to why that was up. But the storage is something that I think we will be able to eliminate at some point down the road. That has been reduced for this year, and hopefully we can look at the potential of eliminating that next couple of years due to some of the projects that we've done for digitization. The next one, this is the most impressive part for me. Again, it's looking at the number of documents we have recorded from every day or every year that I've been here. It was 14,600 when I first came. That increased up to 17,000, dipped back down. We have never done more than, since I've been here, more than 17,583 documents in a year. And in 2020, we did just shy of 21,000 documents. It has been, the busiest year that we've had, hands down. That number on the right-hand side, for 2020, you see 1071. The rest of those are between 700 and 900. This is just trying to help give you an idea of what the future is going to hold. As of January 20th and the year that follows, so that 1071 represents what we had recorded as of the 20th. So a week ago today, we had 1,071 documents, which you can see is a relatively significant increase from what we have historically done by this time in the year. So it's been, that's the primary chunk of time goes towards these real estate documents that are filed. So. The next one is the Department of Natural Resources. That's boats, snowmobiles, ATVs. It's all inclusive. And one number that I think I've had a couple different supervisors reference in the past is how many more vehicles we're selling or that are being sold here in Dubuque. And this is the number of renewals we're doing on snowmobiles and ATVs. So 2,300 back in 2017, 2,400 in 2018, 2,600 in 2019. You can see that kind of just a general uptick, and then this year it popped quite a bit more. Whether that's due to the vehicles being allowed on the county roads, that may be a contributing factor, but also I think there's just been a natural uptick in outdoor activities. So snowmobiles, jet skis, ATVs, all that sort of stuff. There's been a general uptick. So another pretty significant increase with the number of renewals that we've done. And as of that January 20th date, we had renewed 2,350 of them, which was pretty sizable to get that many done by that time frame. Usually it's a little lower percentage of the number of renewals that we've completed.
So John, of that money, how much do we get to keep? I mean, that's a lot more work for you. So, everyone thinks you're just making out very, very well because you must make so much money for these renewals.
Yeah, these renewals, we get $1.25. So the rest of the money goes to the state. I actually had this conversation with a recent, relatively recent individual from the county who had retired, and he was not real satisfied because it's a $5 late fee after January 1st if you don't ever renew it at the end of the calendar year. And I explained to him that, he says that he doesn't even drive it on county roads, so he doesn't really need to renew it. He doesn't use it on public ways. It's just private roads or private property. And I stated that, you don't need to have it renewed if you're not driving on public roadways. So save yourself the $18. And he thought that the county was losing 18 trying to get a $5 late fee. I explained that that's completely driven by the state. That's their $5 late fee. We don't keep any of that. The only thing we keep is $1.25 for the transaction. And when you think about the fact that we actually mail out reminders to people, that $1.25 doesn't cover, it hardly covers the mailing and the postage back and forth, let alone any staff time that's dedicated towards it. The next one is looking at some of our vital records. That purple line is the number of marriage applications. Again, this is something that, this year's been a unique one. I think there's a lot of folks that we are actually continuing to move forward with their marriage and going to do the big event later, months or weeks, months, or even years down the road, whenever the time seems appropriate. And then the darker line is the certified marriages. So that is the number of people that come in and need to get that marriage in order to qualify for their driver's license to have that completed. So that you can see that uptick started in 2018 as folks prepared for the gold star in their driver's license. It's dropped a little bit this year. I think that's just due to the fact that there's a few more hurdles now to come and receive our services through appointments, or to do it through the mail, it does require a notarized signature. So there's a little bit more of a process to it. And that line for the certified marriages will actually look pretty similar to our certified births. So you see a pretty good uptick, and then it dropped down this year. But that's this one right here for the certified birth records. Again, big uptick for the start of 2019. And then it dropped this year. And I'm assuming that's due to some of the challenges for folks of just being able to swing in here during their lunch break to do that. And then the next slide here talks about our total certified copies. So that's birth, death, and marriages. You can see that 2019 and 2020 have been significantly busier than what we've had been in the past. And my last slide, I think, touches on the number of vitals, the DNR, and our real estate, and how much those have increased. This one, I do not actually have the exact figure this year, but historically speaking, we sell the most heritage trail passes for conservation. And usually we're talking $3,000 to $4,000 a year that we're generating sales for them. And that's, obviously we're collecting fees for the Department of Health, Department of Natural Resources, and part of their revenue as well. So again, some of that money just passes through and doesn't get to stay here. So some of the things that I'm excited about that we did over 2020 is that we did complete the final phase of our land records digitization. So that means that you can jump on our website and see all of Dubuque County's historical land records. We're one of just a few counties in the state that have that. That is all available to the public, which also is a pretty cool feature. If you haven't ever spent time on our site, I would encourage you to do so. You can search by name. So whether it's you want to look and see how much I bought my property for, or see how much the mortgage is for, or see what the interest rates were, that stuff's all on there. There's a lot of data there. The second piece is property check. It's a fraud prevention feature. It does not cost us anything additional as a county or as a consumer. I would encourage everybody to do that. Basically, if it's not an issue, I think that's nearly as much of an issue in Iowa versus other places in the country. But anytime something is filed under your name, your property, you're notified either via text messages or emails, whatever your preference is. And honestly, I forgot I signed up until I refinanced this year. And as soon as somebody put my name in the computer staff put my name into the system, I got a text message as well as an email notifying me that something occurred with my name on it. And yeah, it was just our refile, our refinancing. So something that I did that's a little bit different than I think the majority of folks here is that we did split our staff when we came back in July. Half of us are working in the courthouse at a time, the other half's working in the old jail. Thank you to IT, thank you to the VA for getting us that space that I think we've been able to repurpose and utilize very effectively this year. And the point of doing that was to protect our staff as much as possible, just due to the small confines of the recorder's office. But secondly, is to record, to preserve our operation. People get upset if they can't renew that, that ATV, or they can't come in and get that birth record right away. But it might be a different complaint if they can't close on their mortgage, or they can't get a refinance or whatever because of the paperwork that hasn't been filed in our office yet. So that was the primary thought process and concern for doing that split staff was to try and protect our operation as much as possible. In August of 2020, I was supposed to be a feature for our software vendor, highlighting what we've done in Dubuque County and talking about the digitization. And I ended up having to cancel at the last minute because my little sister lives in Cedar Rapids. You know, I guess that's what brothers do when the derecho comes through. You go and clean up her property that got ruined pretty good there through the derecho. So I had to cancel out on that, but they still proceeded with doing a large online show for people that are in similar roles as either clerk of courts in some places or city clerks or recorders. It's for this software that we use and how Dubuque County is doing it the right way. So I think that's exciting that they're finding us as someone that's leading how to do digitization of records and what that means to preserve them. This next picture here, that is a picture of the Lynn County Recorder's Office a few years back. And this references the two different phases of our land records that are now all completed. The next picture is the picture after the 2008 flood. So take a look at that picture, get an idea of what that office space looked like, because this is what it was literally about 14 hours later. This picture that you see now was done as they were made aware of what was happening with the flood. And this picture is what it looked like the next day. So that was the county's historical records in that heap there. I have a strong relationship with the recorder there, and she never lets us forget what occurred. This slide here is just showing in Lynn County, they lost all their mortgage books that were more than 40 years old. They were in a last-second effort to try and preserve specific records and get them up higher than they could. They did that to the best of their ability, but they did lose every mortgage book that was 40 years old or older. The cost to restore those books is between $4,000 and $5,000 a piece. I just did a quick count of the books that we have, and it costs roughly excess of $4 million to restore the books that we have in our vault here. And then it comes back in 2 or 3 volumes and not one book, which then means you're going to need 2 to 3 times the amount of space to hold those records for the future. And then something that Lynn County did is they cleaned but didn't restore all the books, and that's what cost us about $1 million to clean the books that we currently have back there. So that's part of the reason I wanted to show why that digitization project was important. Now there's a couple things that we're looking at in our immediate future right now. And this stuff was all approved months ago to use with that last line, all funded by the Recorder's Management Fund. That fund will allow us to get these other pieces done, which there's tax deed records and sheriff deed records, essentially 5 volumes, 5 books that we will, those are the only pieces of anything land record related that need to be done yet. We will have that done here. They'll be coming next week to start digitizing those. We will also have all the birth indexes and records. And that's important as well. Same concept to preserve those records. In addition to that, there will be scanning all of the death and marriage indexes. And then we'll be doing a digitization of all of our military records as well. Now, the reference there references the deed records are a public, and then the non-public are going to be the birth indexes and records, the death and marriage indexes, and then all the military records. So those will be non-public. They will be accessible only by staff. The military records, I've already spoken to Randy a little bit. We'll train them how to use our software system, but then that way it'll save his staff from coming and finding us to get these military records. They'll be able to access them themselves. And that's whether if they're located physically where they're at or if they're relocated in the future, that can be done. Whether it was out by the veterans facility out there at some Warren Plaza, and if they end up out there someday, they'll be able to access those records without sending staff down to the courthouse to get those. So something that'll be very beneficial in the future. This slide here, so I'm not sure if you've been able to check or not, but this is something that we addressed last year during my budget presentation, and I'm almost positive it was approved for this project. And that's the reasons why I want to do it. But it all got put to the back burner is COVID, and how to address what has been a record year as far as volume of transactions in our office, as well as the challenges that COVID presented. It's got put to the back burner. I'm now looking at the potential of getting that project done before we have, quote, normal operating hours and full staff here in the courthouse. So thought I'd just keep that on there in case anybody had questions on that. And then the staffing of our office, we do have 2 deputy recorders, in addition to myself, and 3 full-time clerks. It is the smallest staff of any recorder office in Iowa, with more than 40,000 people in it. So I think it's important to reference that we've got some amazing people that are doing a great job and giving much more than honestly what they're obligated to under the contract. So yeah, it's bold to underline that we must recognize the recorder's office staff. There's been plenty of times that the deputies have been in here late nights, on the weekends, trying to get caught up. I see, I reference on here that our real estate, we went up 36.87% in the last 2 years. There was a time where we had 2 staff that tested positive for COVID, and they were out for a couple of weeks for one and a month for the other. And we fell behind on our real estate to the tune of 30, we're about a month back, so 30 days. That's the only time that's happened since I've been here. I don't think it's happened in the last 10 years. And it happened because we didn't have the full staff capacity at a time when we had more real estate filings than ever. Our vital records increased 19.76% over the last 2 years. And I think, again, that attributes a lot to the Gold Star. Expectations for birth records as well as marriage records. And our DNR renewals were up 23.65% over the last 2 years. So everything we do is increasing significantly. And the vast majority of that has been over the last year. So I think next year we're going to be able to generate a lot of revenue for the county, a lot more than it costs us to operate, and hopefully make your guys' jobs just a little bit easier. So with that, does anybody have any questions?
John, what are your improvement requests?
So for my improvement requests, the one maybe is if that office renovation was not approved last year, I would have to revisit that, just because it's something that needs to be done, assuming that we're going to be in the courthouse for the foreseeable future.
John, this is Stella. That is budgeted in this fiscal year already.
Perfect. So the only other one that may come up is if we continue with these increase in transactions between our real estate vitals and our DNR, that I may need to look at our staffing, whether or not it's adequate. I've got a trick or two, I think, up my sleeve on how to address that, but I think that might be something that we need to look at in the future when, obviously we're going to be generating a lot more revenue, but also just a lot more transactions.
Something that you and I have talked about a time or two, and is working with the treasurer's office to cross-train staff for Dyersville. They have, in non-COVID times, they have the treasurers, they share space, I think, and Eric will be with us in a few moments after your presentation. But if there's any way to look at increasing our presence in the county at a place other than all the way down on 720 Central, and if there's something that could be done to cross-train, I know you remind me that things are different and I get all that, but are any counties cross-training like this? And should we be looking at better service at that's already being provided to us by the city of Dyersville?
Yeah, we've had the conversation a little bit. There is, obviously there's 3 or 4 different components of software that will need to be done at that location. So in addition to training the individual, it would also be requiring some additional expenditures in our software, just the number of access points we would have. To do our real estate out there would be real challenging. And I say that because it would require heavy expenditure for scanners and in order to do it there. And it turns into a bit of a hiccup when we'd be duplicating services that we are producing here. Where the potential lies in my head would be essentially with the DNR for doing those renewals. I think that might be a path that we can use. The challenges with the vital records is, again, those books are sitting here. I'm not sure how we can, we're not going to spend what we would need to in order to replicate those and take them out there. Now, when they're digitized, is there maybe some new paths and options? Yes, but that's something we could cross that bridge once they're digitized. The only other option is that the state and federal government pay very close attention to the paper that we put certified records on. And we really wouldn't be able to have that sitting in another office location. They account for every single piece of paper that they have. And whether or not, I don't know if that would be a piece. So I think the DNR would be the option where that could be looked at as a very reasonable way to cross-train. And given the amount of work, I think it would probably be looking at trying to work with Eric to determine if his staff can get cross-trained to do DNR renewals. And we wouldn't be able to necessarily print new titles out there for the vehicles, but the renewals is a piece I think we could look at.
Right, and this is an idea, so it doesn't have to fly, but I've not had anybody say it's not a good idea, or maybe it's not even something that folks would care to do, but seems that there's some things people do, as you say, they think they're supposed to be at the treasurer's office, they're really supposed to be at the recorder's office, and vice versa, where we have that same situation out in Dyersville, and the only service there that the county is offering is some limited time with the treasurer. So if you would just, I can't make that happen, but if it feels like it's possible, better service, I'd like to see someone at least look at it a little bit.
No, I will approach that with Eric as an option for our DNR. And I haven't given it enough thought at this time as to what that would entail. There might be some unforeseen things that I'm not aware of yet, but that's something we can look at.
Obviously, we can't offer everything. I mean, of course, we can't offer everything. We're not going to necessarily be able to do every service that you do have to come down. If you want to see the records that are not digitized, that's a trip to 720 Central. But anyway, thank you. I appreciate you listening to the idea.
Absolutely.
I would think the renewals, under the DNR would be probably a good avenue to explore just for the ATVs, boats, just where people from that end of the county could go to Dyersville to renew and keep them out of the city. That would be an avenue that could work. But
absolutely. And at an absolute minimum, maybe the first question is looking at, I don't want to simplify it to literally that office being a drop box, but it might save a little bit of time if they're dropping off their renewals with, it's a $20 check and a simple number on there. We know we can associate what they're wanting to renew. It's very simple where maybe they could be dropping those at that treasurer's office that is in Dyersville, and they could be delivering those. And whether they're taking them back or we're mailing them, it doesn't make a big difference to me. But that might be one of the simplest, and I think that they've been very accommodating since they've reopened. I'm not even 100% sure when they started seeing customers again in Dyersville, but I know that my phone has started ringing from folks that are in the Dyersville office looking for assistance. So.
Very good. Thank you, John. If there's no other questions, I appreciate you jumping ahead.
Absolutely. Thanks for taking your time, Eric, and let me get in here.
thanks, John.
Thanks.
Thanks, John, for jumping ahead. And I did see Eric on, so hopefully he can turn his camera on and share his screen.
Stella, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Can't see me. How do I turn the camera on?
So down at the bottom of this, there should be a video. So there should be a
Hey.
You're with us.
Wow.
Hello. Nice to
I've
see
been
you.
with you. I've been listening to all that BS from the recorder.
I know you're always with us, Eric. You're always with us.
So how are you guys doing today? So we're a little ahead of schedule here. And how do we proceed here, Stella? I had sent you that thing and I don't have anything here.
Okay, so are you able to share your screen? Do you have your presentation there?
I do not. I thought when I sent it to you that I was done with it then and then we would just.
Okay.
So
So
I have it, and do you have it, Stella, where you can pull it up so we can?
Yep, I
see
do
it?
have it. Let me open it up and then I can share the screen and we can go through it.
And it was in our packet as well, I think, for today.
Yes,
Thank you.
just give me 1 minute while I open this up.
So, Ann, while she's doing that,
I can
you
do
know,
it.
you were talking about Dyersville.
Yeah.
And so we have one person, they've been out there for 3 months now, and they've been out there 5 days a week.
Oh, wow.
And we're making appointments there, you know, and basically we had split the office back in at that same time period. And we had some people working up in the law library, as you were probably aware, and or as you're all aware. And so then we sent somebody out to Dyersville, and she has been there for the last 3 months. Today, we just brought the people back into, we have just brought the people back into the office from the law library, because we're going to be down a couple people in February. So it was just kind of time to bring it back together. So, you know, what are the issues with Dyersville with including the recorders? Well, number one, you know, the first thing I think is, first off, the treasurer's office is the entry level into the courthouse. So we are the only clerk threes, I believe, in the building. Everybody else has elevated themselves to other positions. So we are the lowest, most of our employees are the lowest paid people in the courthouse. So then to expect them to pick up duties from another office, and then, you know, so originally they drive to Dyersville on their own, which is, hey, that's just fine. There's no issues there. But then, you know, then expect them to do other people's, you know, learn some additional duties and that type of thing, you know, probably need to look at something like that, you know, because if they know more than, if they're going to do 2 offices, procedures and work, then they should probably make more than the entry level, which would be, you know, so that would be an initial thing. But, you know, am I glad to sit down with John and discuss it? I sure am. You know, what can we do? You know, in this day and age, as we've seen with this past year, you know, is the physical presence really necessary? You know, you have your online, you have, you know, so now we're pushing everybody towards online, Dropbox, mail. So do you need that physical presence? Because they can do their stuff online. They can do it, you know, and for the people that can't do it online, can throw it in the mail. And so, I don't know, there's surely a number of different ways to look at it.
Thank you for being willing to have that conversation.
Oh, yeah, we don't have any problem with that.
Right. And clearly that person may be compensated at a different level. And
Well, here's what we do is we rotate everybody out there. So everybody's out there a week at a time. So at the present time, like I say, we just brought everybody back into the office. So to maintain all our space, we've left a person out there, and they're out there 5 days a week rather than the 3 days a week that we were previously.
Right.
Just, yeah. So now we're starting a rotation, probably the 1st of March there, where everybody's going to start taking their turn again. We've just had one person out there for the last 3 months. Now we're going to start rotating that on a weekly basis. So everybody in the office goes out there. And so it wouldn't be just one person, it would be everyone.
Right. It will be interesting to see if you reduce, are you thinking you're going to reduce the amount of time you're in Dyersville as you bring everyone back? Or will someone be there 5 days a week?
Well, we're probably going to get back to the 3 days a week.
Right.
But we have to get back to our spacing issue, because if we bring everybody back in the office, then we're cramped in the office.
Right.
And to be honest with you, what's worked, the reason we went to, we were out there originally 5 days a week, and the work is what at that time, the work was what was driving it. We cut it back to 4 days a week, and then we ended up, because, you know, and things have all changed, as you know, with the appointment basis here, which has worked phenomenally, you know, but with the appointment basis, there are no highs and lows. There's the 100 people a day. we see, well, we see more than 100, but there's 101 scheduled appointments a day. Besides what we bring in to assist. So, and before we brought that person back from Dyersville to work here on Mondays and Fridays, because Mondays and Fridays are traditionally your heaviest weeks or your heaviest days, and the lunch hours are your heaviest. So that's why we did that at that time, was the Monday, Friday thing. Well, now every day is the same, whether it's the day after a holiday, the day after a weekend, all the days are the same because we have the same appointments every day. So it all, those are the kind of discussions we need to have because as I say, as you know, everything's changed in that last year.
Right. Very good. Well, thank you for this discussion. I appreciate it.
Yeah, that's no problem.
All right. I think
Harley, welcome aboard.
Thank you, Eric.
Stella has you on screen here
All
with
right.
your budget.
Yep.
So
Eric, just
yeah.
let me know when you want me to advance the screen and I will do that.
I appreciate your help, Stella.
Absolutely.
So why don't we go, let's go to the first screen here. So essentially what I've done, and this is for everyone's case, but this is what I've done in the past. And Harley, it just kind of explains where does the money come from? And how do we get our fees? So essentially, as we're saying here, under the revenues, there's a number of revenues that we collect based on our motor vehicle, the work that we do daily. As you see under that auto registration fees, every single renewal that gets done, we get 4% of it. We get $2.50 for each title done. We average 125 titles a day. And so replacement titles, we get $10 per replacement title, $6 for each lien. So as you're looking at that auto registration fee line, which we have in there for that $9.50, and that is what makes that up. Now, in the past year, what has happened? Well, insanity has happened, when all those people were supposed to be quarantining, I think they were all ran out to a car lot and bought a car. So I'm not sure there was much in the way of quarantining, but that is, one other thing I want to mention here is, just listening to John's presentation, and John does a great job on that, and he's quite a salesman, I got to say. So he's digitizing his records and that type of stuff. But, I think of what does the treasurer's office got? Well, we've been scanning our titles, which would be digitizing them since 1996. So we don't have any big projects in the works because we've been doing it for the last 25 years. And I know John didn't have that opportunity. But so that's kind of where we're at. We don't have any paper. We haven't had any paper in the office as things go by, we haven't had any paper in the office in that 25 years. So there's our first thing. So we're looking at, we had budgeted $950,000. And that's our best guess. Auto use fees, $1 for each transaction using that involving use tax. So when somebody buys a car for the $1, when all of Harley's buddies come in and they bought that car for $1, well, we're going to get that $1 from the state. Now, what's in the works right now is that I see John is listening here. So we get $1 from every transaction. Now we had last year, all the legislation stuff went to heck. The Department of Revenue agrees that we should get more than $1, for each, but that's all being put out to the legislature, and we're trying to get more money for different things, and as it should be, because these are all fees that were set 30 years ago, and they haven't changed in that time period. Next slide, please, Stella. Mailing fees. So since the pandemic started in March, and as the public says, we closed down the place and we've been sitting on our butts doing nothing for the last 6 months. you know, we have, everything is the Dropbox. I have to say, John led the charge on the appointment thing. And that appointment really, I really like that appointment thing. That's really worked out nicely. It's a great tool. And and the Dropboxes, you know, I have to give kudos to everybody in the county for drawing together and doing what needs to be done to make life better for everyone, for the public and for us. You know, the Dropboxes that were installed, the units out in front that they put in for the use of the, you know, for the customers coming in so that they can set their own appointments. Now, we just had that discussion in our office, is when we do schedule a lot of appointments. And we try to steer people towards the website and do it, but they just say, you do it for me. And I says, ultimately, all we want to do is help these folks out. We do tell them, you know, hey, ideally, we don't want to set every appointment. We want you to do it. We want you to go out and make that effort. You're on your phone all the time. Just look around you. You're on your phone all the time. Well, take 2 seconds and set an appointment. But we do set a lot of appointments. It's a few minutes on each one, but it's time well spent, you know. And I do have to say the Dropboxes, all the stuff, you know, from the maintenance guys all the way up, these guys have been great. You know, we brought everybody back in the office, and we were looking to go to another place there, and Dawn was helping us there. And then the reason we drew everybody back within is we have one gal that goes to Florida for the month of February. She saves all her vacation, goes for 1 month, and that's great for me because then she's here all summer. We have another gal that's having surgery, and she's going to be gone for the month of February. So with 2 people gone, we needed to draw them back within the fold so that we can operate our 4 windows and have everything. So with us having to get out of that law library, which CJ was so kind to let us use, you know, that was a good time. It was like, okay, let's just go back in. And the maintenance guy stepped in and put in the plexiglass between the different partitions where we're not the 6 feet apart. And it's just, you know, it's wonderful to see the way everybody has worked together on it. So motor vehicle mailing fees, as I was saying, now we have everybody dropping off, mailing in, doing their renewals online. So we collect $1 per vehicle for any stickers mailed out of the office. So if you send in for 6 stickers, if you send in for 4 of them, we're going to throw them all in one envelope and mail them out at the 38 cents. And if you throw in, you know, if you throw in $1, you know, one, we're making money on all that. Now, what does that mean? You know, since March, a great deal more mail has been processed, resulting in more income and also more expense for the envelopes. You know, we had, at one time, we had purchased license plate envelopes, and I had gotten quite a bit of them, and we had them. I had made a deal with Scott Printing here, and when we did those a number of years ago, they printed them for the whole state, and we made one big order and bought 500,000 of them or something statewide. So at that time, one of the counties had an error on an address, and we bought the 90,000 that they didn't need at a pittance. Well, now with this past year, with all the mailings that we're doing, we have gone through all our envelopes. So we're going to be ordering more envelopes on a regular basis where we were, but that's surely cheap versus the other alternatives. When new plates are issued, we get $3 for one of them. Costs us $2.20 to mail them out. And in FY20, we collected $1,022,765. Now, the total cost of operating, if you add up all our income, it's $1,058,000. So we're basically recouping our cost through just the motor vehicle and not counting anything else. So the next slide, please, Stella. Tax sale. Let's talk tax sale. Harley, and you've been through it, and the other guy, he's been through it too. But Harley, what the tax sale is the tax sale is a procedure to get the money into the county so the county can operate as usual. So on the third Monday in June, any delinquent taxes get sold at the tax sale. Now the sold is not quite an accurate, it gets sold at an auction. These guys pay, I think we're charging $80 registration for them to have an opportunity to bid to pay the taxes. So when they get it, all our delinquent taxes are paid then by the investor. Then the investor takes over the county's job of collecting it. Okay, so what happens is the county ends up with the money to operate, and the investors get 2% per month, 24% interest a year for their doing that. So the ultimate goal was to give the money to the county so that we have money to operate, so we don't have delinquent taxes out there hanging that people haven't paid. We get the money to operate. Now, we did not hold a sale this past year because, we didn't even have delinquent taxes until it got up to the June month, and we had enough money to operate. So what has happened then is that we have earned 1.5% interest that the county has kept. So, and Harley, I don't mean to like this is just pointed at you, but so Harley's has $1,000 in taxes that he owes. His next door neighbor is a bidder on the tax sale, so I'll pay Harley's taxes for him. So as soon as he pays off the $1,000 that Harley owes, and then the county's got their money, and he's got a IOU from Harley for $1,000 and some. So for that, the neighbor is going to make 2% on that $1,000 every month. And the county doesn't get, the county doesn't do anything because we're out of it. We got our money. We're out there scot-free. And if ultimately Harley doesn't pay his taxes, there will be a deed issued and Harley's neighbor will own his property. But ultimately, 99.9% of them get redeemed and life goes on. But then they're paying that penalty, and that penalty goes directly to the investor. Does that make sense to you? Go ahead.
How long do I have to pay you back if you paid my $1,000?
That's 3 years.
3 years, okay.
So the fastest they can move is 1 year and 9 months. So it's in June. So in 1 year and 9 months from June of every year, those investors can send out a letter. It says, hey, you've got 90 days to pay me back. If you don't, and a lot of them will just send the letter out and not actually do it legally. When I say legally, officially, they do it legally. So they don't want the money in 1 year and 9 months. They want to go 2.5 years or something. Now, if they don't do anything within that 3-year period, at the end of that, when it expires, then they're just out. If they didn't do what they were supposed to do, the investor would be out. And I've seen that happen probably twice in 27 years, so 26 years. But, so that is, so now the county's making 1.5% on all the property that we would have sold at the tax sale and paid somebody else 2% because it doesn't go to the 2% till it goes to the tax sale. So you can go to tax sale, so it just stays at the 1.5%. So Stella would see an increase in her delinquent tax revenue versus other years because we didn't have the tax sale. So how does a tax sale work? We get bidders. We've gone online with ours because then we used to hold it within the building. We used to have 50 bidders. So then we'd have a deck of cards. We'd draw, the guys in the crowd would have a card, and we would draw that card. They had because it's a random selection for who gets to purchase those properties. And it just got, and we went online with it probably 7 or 8 years ago. And with that, we now get 1,000 bidders. But then we sell a lot, we sell more property that some of the other bidders would not, well, the local guys would not buy it. Or there weren't any local guys anymore. It used to be you'd have a few guys. Now they're all from all over the world. You know, we used to have guys coming in from Colorado, and we'd have one or two that were guys that did it locally, but they've basically died and nobody, we have one local bidder, and he bids all over the state, and he loves the online, but that is the tax sale. So when will the tax sale happen again? It'll happen in March, in June, the third Monday in June of this year. We'll go back right into the regular schedule again.
So when you did your card thing, basically I get the first card, I go pick which properties I want and I pay that and I leave next.
No, we would go parcel by parcel. So if we have 450 parcels, we would go, we got this parcel here. This one's worth $20. And we'd pull up the king of clubs. Harley's got the king of clubs. Harley, you want to buy that? And Harley'd say yes or no. And when he said yes, so, but also mixed in there might have been a hotel where the taxes were $50,000 every 6 months. So that's what they're all hanging out for, is that, or they just start accumulating them and you put enough of them together and you got some.
Okay.
So next slide, please, Stella. Passports. We just started up with the passports when March came along, the infamous March. Passports basically shut down. We get $35. We do 1,000 passports a year, and we get $35. It's a gravy train. You know, it's a 15-minute procedure to get these folks. You know, now we'll have families come in, might be 5 or 6 of them come in at a time, but that whole procedure has been delayed, and we've just started doing passports here now. What do I got there? No passports done. We started scheduling them in January of 21 there. So we've had a few coming in because number one, the passport agency wasn't issuing passports. So this is something it'll be back on, but it'll be, you know, when all this comes to an end. But this is, that's good revenue. Now the John in the recorder's office, they used to do that before John was here, and they couldn't do it because of the reason we ended up with it was because of the fact that they couldn't do it because they had the birth certificates. If we were issuing driver's license here in our office, we would not be able to do it either. So next slide, please, Stella. Interest on investments. I tell you, we have a combination of bonds and CDs. Now, and we were talking about, we just got a new member, and I probably haven't seen it yet. He just sent in an application. Doug Stillings was previously with DB&T, and he's retired, and he has submitted an application to be on our investment committee.
Excellent. That'll fill up your committee then.
Yes. So back in the early 90s, Harley, do you remember the Iowa Trust when we lost all the money and statewide, yep. You know, and so at that time, the Board of Supervisors set up an investment oversight committee. And so in March and September of every year, we get together with these folks. And one of them is, we have, let me get my list here so I don't misstate anybody. We got Jerry Lynch. Jerry, I think, has been on there as long as I can remember. We have Joyce Jarding. She was a city council person out in Farley. And now we have Doug Stillings. So what we do at that time is we put a list of what our investments are. And basically we're pretty simple. You know, we had gone a number of years ago, we had purchased some bonds from DB&T because of the fact that there wasn't any money in the CDs. We couldn't get any rates at all. So we took some bonds out. We had gone with 5 million. We're up to 6 million in bonds now. We just roll those bonds over. Bonds are kind of a long-term thing. So we've been doing that for a number of years. $28,000 in CDs. So as I state there, a year ago, 1.8 interest was something we received. Now the latest bid resulted in 0.47. So interest is going to drop like crazy. You know, it was nice when we had that. So, you know, what's the future got to come? Who knows? You don't know, and I don't know. So at this point, we're assuming it's going to be cheap interest rate. You know, we're not going to be getting anything. Back in those days when we went to the bonds, we finally had to, some of the guys, they wouldn't even bid on them, you know, because they didn't want the money, you know, because it wasn't worth having. So it's not that bad, but we're not going to see the interest income that we have seen in the past. So that's easy money that we're not going to see. Next, please, Stella. The city of Dubuque, Harley, for your information, a number of years ago, city of Dubuque came to me, you know, the parking guy says, hey, Eric, he says, can we put a stop on the renewal records and collect some parking? Yeah, we can do that. And we initially did it for nothing. You know, he said, well, we'll do that. Well, when you send out, you know, it was quite a bit of work because we were sending stuff back because people would send them in and they owe a parking ticket. So then we'd send their stuff back and they'd say, hey, you need to pay your parking tickets first. So this is all evened out, you know, the first few years. So then the city, I went to them and I said, well, we're basically a collection agency for you. We want some money for doing it. So they gave us, I wanted 50% like a collection agency, but they didn't give us 50%. They said, we'll give you $3,000. So they give us $3,000 every year. And just some miscellaneous stuff, scrap plates, you know, when people turn the plates in, we scrap them out, we get that income.
Or when I'd carry them over by the armloads.
That's right. And the price of scrap isn't anything now. So there's another thing that's kind of gone to hell. So next slide, please. Now, do you guys have any questions on the stuff as we go through it? You know, we're looking at, now if I go back and look at the numbers, that was the explanation as to what we're doing. You know, where the money comes from. Mailing fees, you know, we've increased the amount of the mailing fees. And so we don't know what the future brings. You know, are we going to open up like normal? At this point, the appointment basis is working well. Now, when we originally went on it, we were a week out. Now we are, you know, this morning we were scheduling for today and tomorrow. So that tells me that we've got things pretty well under control if we're scheduling for the next day, you know. So by the end of the day, we've got our days filled up with people calling in and we're scheduling the next day now. You know, with the weather we've had here, that always affects everything no matter what. But, you know, we're just, we're a day out. So that tells me that we're pretty current on what we're doing. On the work we're doing.
Eric, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
This from extended family. They pay their taxes on the exact last date. And
Yeah.
they ran into your appointment schedule. So they couldn't pay the taxes on time. And so they had a late fee. Are you hearing from people? I mean, they complained to me and I said,
well,
you know, I don't know how to tell you that you have to make an appointment. I think it's pretty widely known, but have you heard that back from folks?
well, and here's where we're at, Ann, is, have I heard that? I've heard that for 26 years. You know, so what happens is the reason they couldn't pay their taxes because they couldn't walk in the building. They couldn't drop it in that drop box that was in the door there. They couldn't put it in the drop box that was in the alley. They couldn't pay it online. They couldn't mail it in. Give me a break. Because you know, can you come in? You sure can come in, but you need to make the appointment. And we're more than accommodating, and we're not some hard asses here saying, hey, screw you, we're not helping you. No, and we got some old people, you know, old people come in, we just accommodate, you know, and the security guards know that. We accommodate you, you know, because they're not going to be changing any of them, and, you know, so we do accommodate them. But then at the same time, we go, hey, just so you know, it's a different world, you know, So mail it in, well, I'm not going through all this again. Well, that's fine. Put it in the Dropbox. But there is, you have all those options. Just because you didn't want to put it in the Dropbox or any of their options, just because they had to walk in the door, well, they didn't have to be late. They could have threw it in the mail. Yeah. Well, that was your family, and get that family under control.
I'm trying, Eric. Thank you.
But there is, that's what, how many places do you try to go into today that you can't go into that you used to go into? A number of them. Can you go into City Hall? I haven't been in, so I haven't been able to pay my water bill in 9 months because I can't get into City Hall. That ain't flying. I've heard this too many times. So, no, ain't buying it.
Guess I'm not going to come down there and complain.
Well, you can, and we'll listen, I'm a pretty kind guy, but it doesn't change the reality of it. Believe me, I've heard my share of complaints.
I know I've heard plenty of it just about the courthouse security, that you got to go through all this to go to the treasurer's office. I said, that's why they give you an envelope. You can mail it in. You don't have to go down there and go through it.
And, okay, here's the next thing. I have, how many people do I have? I have probably a couple hundred people a year that I help do things. We have elderly people that are filling out elderly credit forms that would ordinarily come in and I would do it for them. But that's done. A guy called me yesterday and he goes, hey, Eric, it's Carl. I says, yeah, Carl, I was just thinking of you. I said, I just did your renewal the other day. And he goes, so he says, well, I can't come in this year, but he said, I got a question on my form here. We got that resolved. And they know that, and the people realize it. And we don't have anybody coming within the office. If they come in, we have them go to a window that we open up there. And so, yeah. If anybody said, I would have to dispute any fact that anybody said we were real jerks and wouldn't help them. I would argue that one to the wall. So everybody's getting there. Everybody, you can ask the security guards or ask people that aren't even involved in our office that we kind of go the extra mile and do it. Now, I'm sure everybody else in the courthouse does, but I know that we do. So on the expense side, we are looking at general office, the 2,600, that first one. We're going to be collecting, we're going to be getting more envelopes. We've already ordered some and we'll be ordering some every year then, whereas 50,000 renewal envelopes, that used to last us a year. We'll have to see how that does. Everything is just, we have a lot more, everything is drop off and mail and online. We do a great number of online things and even the titles. And when we're doing titles through the mail, and they send us pictures of what they got, we make up the applications and everything and send it back to them. Now, do they do it correctly? No, they're not going to do it right. But 2 or 3 times we do get it eventually. We have found that a number of people must be hard of hearing because we tell them what to do, but they don't seem to hear it. And then when they send it in, we don't have the things that we asked for. But that's just the way it is. But we get it done. The second portion on there, we have stationery, forms, and general office. Hang on, I got to shut my blower down here. So we have office supplies, and then the second line we got there where it's, we have another line on them, the 00903. That's our renewal notices that get mailed out of Des Moines. They're statewide, one place does them for everybody in the state. They get mailed out, and that is our expense. So you're gonna see under the supplies, that would be the paper portion, and under the postage would be the postage for mailing out those monthly renewal notices. Magazine period, you know, what do we have, $100? We have, you know, that's $100. Office equipment and furniture, you know, we put $1,000 in there every year, or 2,000 or some damn thing. And most time we don't even use it. So, but you need to have something, you know, probably the biggest thing we go through are calculators here is, you know, one of the biggest things. So, you know, our postage has gone up because we're mailing out so much more stuff, but then our income for postage has come in also. Next slide, please.
That's the end, Eric.
Is that the end? Oh,
That's the end.
I got all kinds of other BS there that I got a shovel here. We've got, let's see. Well, you want to know the breakup, you know, so we have 14 people in my office. One's a part-timer. So we have, so here's what my plans are, gang, just so you know what's going on in the building then. This is my last term. I'm not going to be running anymore. So you can get somebody then that'll fix up that, take care of them people that come in that last day. We'll get somebody in there that'll make that right. So at the current time, we have, we got 3 deputies. We have a tax deputy, a motor vehicle deputy, and then we have a 65% deputy that we brought him on because the way I see things is that the way I'd like to see things happen is Randy would move up into my position, and then our clerks, our current deputies, you know, would be replaced by somebody within the office. I feel very strongly about that. You know, people have to have a place to go. They have to have an aspiration for movement upward within the office. And you know, those people will move up at that time, and they're all good people. We don't have people we have to be afraid of moving up. We have one part-time gal that comes in and does renewals for us, and she comes in as needed. And it's just kind of, well, we don't have, I think we have her 8 days a month. And she comes in and just as we need her on a Friday, Monday, you know. So our big mail day is on Monday. We get hundreds and hundreds of renewals that come in. So she'll come in on maybe Tuesday or Wednesday. We try to stay within a week on those renewal notices and getting them out. So when the renewal notices come in, for instance, this morning, we've got December ones that are delinquent on the 1st of February. We have January ones that are delinquent on the 1st of March. And then we have the February ones. So everything is done in a priority basis, you know. So the December ones that need, we send them out right away. They get them back. January ones are also done that same day. The February renewals sit there and we do them. We don't like to have them in the office more than a week, so we work at getting them out in that time period. Let's see, all of our employees are cross-trained in both our motor vehicle and property tax. You know, anybody off at any time, you know, doesn't make any difference here. Everybody can rotate around and do whatever. We don't have to call them at home and find out what's going on, or how we do that. So that's essentially what I got and what I'm asking for, you know, not asking for any, you know, do we have any improvements we need to do? Not that I can think of, you know, things didn't seem to be pretty well set. You know, we are, no, life is good. Thanks to you guys. How's that? Are you buying it?
That's great, Eric. I appreciate you sharing your plans. That does help us. I think maybe that was widely known, but I appreciate that recap too. And I will pass on all of your great advice to my father-in-law.
You
who was very dismayed. Yeah.
And those are the guys that they used, you know, 20 years ago, they used to walk around and pay the phone bill and go to the gas company and go to the electric company and go by City Hall and BS with all the pretty girls that were at the things and then go in and pay the taxes. And my God, that's a hell of a day out, you know, and
That's
then maybe
right.
stop and swap some Ys at Hy-Vee with the John Deere guy.
He comes in
you know.
from the farm and they
That's
have
right.
it down to a pattern. So
Yeah.
there you go.
And
Anyway,
they bring in their bills that they haven't opened. They open the envelope in front of you and say, okay, Is everything there? Well, you missed that one. I said, well, I don't own the property. You do. You know, did we get them all or not? You have to tell me that, buddy.
Well, and I appreciate also that you don't have, you know, big things this year. Not that your budget has ever really been filled with
No.
improvements. It's been, and you can see on the budget worksheet that Stella had sent to me, you can see that interest just nosedive.
Yeah. Was just getting someplace, but we were getting some.
Right. Very good. Do we have any questions for Eric, for our treasurer?
I have nothing.
No questions for me. I enjoyed it thoroughly, Eric. Thank you
Yeah.
very much.
Jay, what will we do? What would we do without
That's
this man's
his
humor?
name, Jay. I couldn't think of his name.
What would we do without the humor that comes with the presentations? That's just,
I was only on the ballot twice, Eric. How long were you on? How many times were you on the ballot?
Been on the ballot a number of times.
what
See,
will we
that's
do without
why,
you
you know.
at debates? What will we do without you at debates? You take all the heat off on the hard questions. They pass them to Eric, and then everybody's lightened. Their mood is lightened.
Well, you know, what's so serious about what we do? We are here to take care of the people that we work for. And, you know, that in some counties, that's a novel concept, you know. So here, I have to tell you, I take a great deal of pride in what we've accomplished in this office. And is it due to me? No. It's due to everybody that we have here, and including you guys. But I take a great deal of pride. I like to help people, and I would assume it's appreciated, you know. But if it isn't, I don't care. I'm going to do it anyhow. So we have a good time with it and try to treat everybody right, and that's all I can say. I've enjoyed every minute of it, or I'd be gone.
Well, thank you so much for sharing with us today, and we appreciate getting your budget. It looks like it's easy for us to handle.
Yeah, should be. Well, hey, Stella, I didn't know what to do when you said, "Oh, get on that." How? So you have to thank Tracy. Got me on.
Good.
But I appreciate the help, guys. Thank you.
Very good.
Thank
Good
you very
night.
much, Eric.
Good
Thanks,
night,
Eric.
Eric.
That's all that we have for this afternoon. We're back on with budget at 1 o'clock on Friday. And we'll kick that off with representatives from Cottingham and Butler talking about our insurance renewal. And then we'll have conservation, Sunnycrest, the county attorney, and facilities maintenance.
For the conservation, the worksheets that you sent me, it's 47 pages. Do you have any way to send me the highlights?
I can look at and filter. When I run those reports, they include every account that is active, even if they're not used. So I know they get convoluted.
Right.
I run that differently.
Okay, sounds good. All right, I think we're looking for, if there's not, are there any other questions for Stella? I guess let's go that way.
I
Very
have
good.
nothing.
Looking for a motion to
Nope.
recess until 1 o'clock on Friday.
Make the motion to recess till 1 o'clock on Friday.
And I will second that.
We have a motion and a second to recess until 1 o'clock on Friday. All in favor, signify aye.
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 Aye. Aye. Very good. Thank you, everyone. We're in recess.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a good evening.
See ya.